up instead of right down onto the ground.
Oh, Scott, thank you so much for that. And you can see they're really sort of ramping up that air assault there. And it is difficult to do those water drops when you have the wind conditions that you do have. But they have trained for this and they have to do it with pinpoint precision. They have been able to do it. So we can only hope that they can increase these air drops and get a handle on this one. Meanwhile, let's go on over to Leslie Lopez. She is tracking the red flag warning and the winds.
Hi there. Yeah, that's, I just want to take you to where Christina is at, that Sylmar fire, and just let you know through this area that we're looking at, we are looking at 66-mile-per-hour gusts at times. So that is very nearby the areas of that Kegel Canyon. Of course, when we talk about canyons and passes, we get some of our stronger gusts through those areas. We have a red flag warning extending from Santa Barbara all the way down into San Diego County out to the desert communities. And unfortunately, the bad news with this is it's going to last for the next couple of days. So we're going to continue with this red flag warning all the way through Thursday night into early Friday morning. Now, some of the winds that we are clocking here, again, I just told you about that 66-mile-per-hour gust through the Kegel Canyon area nearby. Earlier this morning, it was a 78-mile-per-hour gust that blasted through the area, and that 78-mile-per-hour gust is over hurricane force wind. Hurricane force winds are 74, so we did see a burst come through that area that was much stronger than that. And of course, this means that for firefighters, it's very hard to fight a fire. I just want to give you an idea of what they have to, what they're up against. When we're talking about winds of 40 miles per hour, so double is what we're seeing almost, but 40 miles per hour. If you're trying to put water with your hose on flames, that water is just going to spray everywhere. It's not going to hit the flames in the intended direction that these firefighters want it to go. So water drops from the sky are very important. But unfortunately, just like Scott Reif was saying earlier this morning, we're looking at velocities going from 50 miles per hour to 0, and the just bouncing up and down with that wind and the velocities, and also just the uncertainty of what's happening with these strong gusty Santa Anas continues to be a major concern. I'm going to send it back to you guys. We're going to talk more about the Santa Anas. Unfortunately, I don't have very much good news as far as when they're going to get a break.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Les.
This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
And we are going on past 7 a.m. Welcome to Eyewitness News this morning. Special coverage of 2 fires burning across Southern California. On the right, you see the Creek Fire. That is near Sylmar, Kegel Canyon. On the left is the Thomas Fire, which has burned, it's exploded overnight, burned over 31,000 acres.
And these are wind-driven fires. Let's go to Brandy Hitt. She is on the ground in Ventura, and she has been watching as homes have burned down. Brandy.
Oh my goodness, Philip and Leslie, wind-driven is right. We keep seeing these strong gusts of winds practically blow us over at times. Look over my shoulder here, and you look at those flames. That's what's really driving this fire, is the strong winds pushing those flames and embers across this entire area. We are on Foothill and Andorra in Ventura, and if you can see the homes that are just below it, these homes have been spared, and we just saw a poor couple run up moments ago. They live in the second home up here that has been spared so far, but they are so concerned and so just unfortunately saddened because they're worried that their home could be next. I believe they came back to get some belongings while they can. Fire crews do not want anybody coming up here, but this couple did make their way back up, and they're inside their home right now, likely trying to get whatever belongings they can find. If you look over here down Foothill, nothing but smoke, and this is what we've been seeing nonstop. It's hard to see for anybody who has not escaped the area just yet. There's embers that have crossed the street, and the fire has kind of burned out from what we saw earlier this morning, but in the distance, I can still see flames going downhill, and that is such a concern, are the flames going downhill, because there's an entire neighborhood down there with hundreds of homes. We're hearing booms periodically, which are likely propane tanks, they said, gas tanks that have been exploding in the distance. I'm gonna have Brian walk this way with me, because this is what we also saw this morning, that as I toss it back to you, has just been an unbelievable sight with so much smoke. The sunrise and all these fire crews that continue to arrive from different counties and agencies from across the state just trying to help out. We've seen water drops in this area, but unfortunately more homes are burning, Philip and Leslie.
What an eerie sight, the sun coming up, and you can see it glowing through that smoke. Thank you very much, Brandy. Yeah. We're going to check in with Christina Salvo. She is live at the Creek Fire near Tujunga.
Yeah, that's right, Leslie. We are seeing lots of thick smoke, actually so thick that it's obscuring the view of the flames on the hillside behind us, but a very eerie glow here, as you can just see the glow of the flames reflecting off the smoke. And unfortunately, I have heard reports from one of the firefighters who came down off of the hill further up Cagle Canyon that 4 to 5 homes may have been lost already. We've just seen people evacuating themselves, evacuating their horses all morning long. With me, I have one resident. Your house is just right out here. Tell me what the morning was like for you.
About 3 o'clock this morning, we heard honking in the neighborhood. Our phones didn't wake us up, obviously, with the emergency call. So we woke up and the whole hill was glowing up here and helicopters were flying ahead. All of our neighbors were taking their horses out. Those of us who have fire hose were out stretching their own personal hose out to protect their properties. And now it's just a wait and see game. The fire department they're doing their best. That's all we can do.
It's just such a vast area.
It is a very large area, a lot of horse property, very spread out, a lot of brush from this past winter's growth. But we live up here for a reason, and we take that chance with it.
I mean, and it was quite significant to see the flames about an hour or two ago right up here. Yeah. It looks like it's burned through all the fuel on this hillside. So that's some, I guess, a little bit of comfort.
That's what it appears to look like, is being we're in the very deep depth of the canyon. It's staying on top of the ridges and just creeping down to us. We've been pretty fortunate on that. You can see it's blowing past here. There's a few hot spots here and there, but it looks like it's farther down the canyon heading towards Hansen Dam.
All right. These winds, though, are incredibly gusty. That's
very
still
erratic.
Scary. Huh?
Very erratic. Gusts last night were probably in the 40 to 60 mile an hour ranges when we went to bed about 9. But don't know where it started, but this is what happens.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear that your house is okay and that you guys are all safe as well.
You be safe also.
Thank you so much. So you just heard a live account of what one resident went through. We did speak with some other people who were further up the canyon. The woman telling me that she woke up to her smoke alarm going off. That's what alerted her. She looked out the window. She saw her fence on fire. Had only enough time to grab one cat and the keys and then get down. But I mean, this is a little good sign where we are. We're on Cagle Canyon by Peters Road, Blue Sage Road. In this area, the fire is laying down. We're just seeing thick smoke, so that is a good sign. But as you saw from Scott's picture, there are still very much active flames in other parts. So we'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, Christina, thank you. And we are looking at Air 7 HD and Scott's picture. And just to, you heard the mention of Hansen Dam. There's a mandatory evacuation for the area of Sayre Street to Little Tahunga and the 118 North Freeway. You can evacuate to Hansen Dam Aquatic Center. That is at 11798 Foothill Boulevard. For emergencies, they say call 911. Let's go back to Scott Reif. He's in Air 7 HD. And Scott, it's very easy to imagine evacuations orders in place and probably fairly widespread.
Yeah, and absolutely positively needed, Philip, as well. We have such a hard time showing you what we'd like to show you because there is so much smoke. I want to come out of this shot just for a moment, give you an idea what we're looking at. And folks, boy, if you have respiratory issues, it is going to be very tough in the San Fernando Valley. Visibility down at Van Nuys Airport at one point went to half a mile. It may have gotten better. Things are changing a bit as this fire burns. But down along that line, I want to bring up Sky Map 7, is Gavina Road. And just to the north of that is really, for the most part, where the fire is burning. It jumped it at one point in time. There's been helicopter drop after helicopter drop right in this area off of Via San Diego and that area off to the right side of your screen there. They have saved homes for sure with those drops. City Fires made several just within the last couple of moments. But this is the concern, the high winds. This area south of Gavina to the north of the 210. I believe this is going to come up as Lakeview Terrace or San Fernando as far as the city is concerned, a portion of Sylmar. It's the spot fires that we really worry about. It jumps that line. If it would start a house on fire, that could spread to another one, and then you're really in trouble. A lot of structure protection in place, but once again, we'll come out of this shot and give you an idea of what we're really trying to battle when we show things to you, and that is all that smoke just lying down there. I want to go to the daytime view, and it'll give you an idea off to the right and come down a little bit where all the homes are right in there that are threatened. It really gives you an idea where the fire is burning.
All right, Scott, thank you very much for that. Let's go down on the ground at this fire to Veronica Miracle. She is in Sylmar. Veronica, tell us exactly where you are.
Leslie, we're on Cagle Canyon Road, really at the epicenter of this neighborhood here in Sylmar. Behind me, a car and possibly a home up in flames. Neighbors have converged here on the road, some taking matters into their own hands, using pickaxes and shovels to try and protect their properties. If you take a look down this way, you see people lining the streets, some folks spraying their homes with water as they look at a fire just across the street. And then above us, helicopters are going back and forth from Hanson Dam Lake over to where that fire is right above the ridge. I just spoke with a man. I asked him, hey, is your house okay? He says he has no idea. That seems to be the sentiment here in this neighborhood. A lot of people just unsure of what exactly is happening to their property. All they can do is really watch the flames and be with their neighbors and try to do what they can at this point. We did see a couple of horses with their owner coming down the neighborhood, coming down this canyon. A lot of people with their animals. So it's very uncertain in this area here. And of course, just flames right across the street. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Veronica, thank you very much for that live update. Keep an eye on that for us. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about the weather here, which we've been saying all morning long is a real problem and is fueling these two massive fires. One massive and the other has the potential to be that way, and both so devastating. Les, what's going on?
The winds, of course, are going to be the biggest factor to any of this. We're talking about winds that have gusted at this point in the morning to about 66 miles per hour through that Cagle Canyon area. And unfortunately, we are concerned, yes, with the embers. Now, if you have enough heavy brush, those embers start flying everywhere, and firefighters trying to get in front of the nose of the fire, in addition to trying to put out these spot fires, is going to be difficult. Those little embers, the more of them there are, they start to go into the residential communities. They get in under the eaves. Any cracks or openings, they penetrate through. And so the unfortunate concern is that how much of those embers are going to be flying through the area. They can travel a mile or two, depending on the velocity of the wind. And unfortunately, we have the wind to sustain those embers afloat. And we're also noticing that if you're heading over into the Oxnard area, those winds are only increasing in velocity, as well as through the Sylmar area, where we're seeing the other fire, Ventura County spots, dealing with some gusts of about 50 to 60 miles per hour. The strongest winds will continue for us here this morning. And then we have a little lull. Now, I won't say that it's a nice velocity decline, because it's just not. We're going to see, yes, the velocities decline a little bit, but unfortunately for firefighters, they remain very strong into the 30s. And unfortunately, that means that getting in front of this fire is going to be very tough. By about 11 o'clock tonight, another burst of winds occur. And then yet again, tomorrow night, we're looking at another chance for some strong gusty winds to blow through the area. Now, if I can categorize the Santa Ana event like we do with other severe weather like hurricanes or tornadoes, this is a Santa Ana event that has the potential to stay at that critical level, the highest level, because of these strong gusty winds that we're seeing. We don't do that, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to try to start doing that, because it at least gives people prepared warning as far as what we're talking about with Santa Ana conditions. This is going to be one of the worst Santa Anas that we'll see all season long. We're also looking at 38 mile per hour sustained winds, unfortunately, for Ventura. At noon, it remains sustained at 38. 4 p.m., we're looking at a small decline to about 36. At 8 p.m., the winds do drive down to about 25. But again, when we're talking about 25 mile per hour winds on any other day, that's very strong. Just in comparison to the 38 that we're seeing here, it is a decline, but doesn't necessarily mean good news, because it's just not. And then for the Santa Paula area, 39 mile per hour winds, and then we'll decline it down to about 22, only to pick up again right about 11 o'clock tonight. And if you're heading over into the Sylmar area, where we are seeing that fire through Cagle Canyon, 41 mile per hour sustained winds. In fact, we've been seeing a little bit stronger winds through this area. That's also where we saw that 78 mile per hour gust roll through. And then that'll go down to about 34 miles per hour at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. The unfortunate other part of the story is that we do have humidity levels that are down into the teens. And they're expected to decline down into single digits, so that doesn't help firefighters out either. So it just depends on how much of the brush, is it going to be heavy brush that this rolls through, how many more embers does that produce, and how close to residential communities are these fires getting. Guys, over to you.
Okay, Leslie, thank you. So as you've heard the weather, now we're looking once again. This is the fire in Ventura County. This is the Thomas fire, fast moving fire. It started north of Santa Paula, Highway 150. It's burned into the city limits of Ventura in the direction of Highway 33. Fire crews having such a difficult time getting to all the locations. JT Alpa in Air 7 HD. So JT, we want to bring you into the coverage as we're here during the Good Morning America broadcast. We're special coverage of this fire. This is incredible what we're looking at, the number of homes so close to active fire lines.
Yeah, Philip, we were here near the start of this fire yesterday evening and stayed with the fire till about 1 in the morning, early this morning. We're back over the fire right now, near the point of origin of the fire, near Highway 150, Steckel Park. And what we're showing you now, this is Santa Paula Creek area, just to the east of Highway 150, just to the west of Santa Paula Creek, right near Say Road. And you can see where the fire has really moved to southbound. This is the heel of the fire, the left flank, the southern flank of the fire. It has really started moving south towards Santa Paula. This is an area where last night it was moving away from this area, but we're going to pull out and just give you some perspective here of where the fire is. Now the fire started up in this area here, and that gives you a look where, with the heel of the fire, where the furthest east section of the fire, but it has since pushed down. The winds have shifted a little bit from out of the northeast to out of the northeast, and now what's happening is all these homes down in Santa Paula that were not threatened last night are being threatened. You can see all the flames making a run at these homes. There are lots of very large trees in this area. You can see those trees swaying with the wind, with gusts here down to about 20-30 miles per hour. You can see some structure protection in the area. There's a strike team on that road. We believe that is Cliff Road, but all these fires and all these flames marching towards these homes. The big problem, as Leslie mentioned, is the embers. The embers are getting into these winds from the right, from the northeast to the southwest, from the right to the left. And look at these trees in here. That's what they're really worried about. It's some light to medium brush, but look at all those trees down there right up against these very large homes. As soon as those flames and those embers get into those homes, you can see there's very little clearance between those trees and those homes back in the area. You can see the strike teams in place on those streets trying to get structure protection, but as it gets into the smoke, well, that's where the problem is, right there under our in our shot right now. All that smoke moving from the right to the left, very, very intense, and in that smoke there are embers getting stuck in those eaves underneath those trees. Look at that tree going, and those palm trees going right behind those homes there. That gives you an idea how fast it's moving. So if you're in the northern Santa Paula area here between Highway 150 and the Santa Paula Creek area, there are mandatory evacuations. But if you're still there and you're holding out, it's time to leave, because this is really starting to pick up in this area. Now, we watched this fire start in this area last night and burn intensely to the west of about a 12 or 14 mile fire line in just a matter of a few hours. It was the most amazing fire and rapid rate of spread that I've seen. So we're going to keep an eye on this in northern Santa Paula and keep you guys updated. But again, fire making a rush here on the heel of the fire in the very southeast corner. Live from Air 7 HD over Santa Paula, JT Alpa, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, JT, that is certainly devastating. Thank you so much for that live update. You know, there was not much that firefighters could do overnight offensively with this fire, but as the sun comes up, we are getting a look at the devastation left behind, all of that damage. Mark Cota-Robles has been in the High Point neighborhood. Mark, what are you seeing?
Yeah, Leslie, good to see you again. We're just above Foothill Road, in Highway 126. This home is one of them that we have watched at one point standing, now completely burned to the ground. We are on La Cumbre Circle, as you mentioned, just off of High Point Drive here on Ventura. This is on the east side of Ventura and several miles away from Santa Paula, where that fire started, as some of the roofline there and part of the facade of this home crumbling away as it continues to burn. Firefighters have moved through the area off and on, working on structure protection this morning, trying to save homes that haven't burned. The real issue of what they're fighting is the wind. At times, we're getting gusts of 20 to 30 miles per hour, allowing those embers to move through the area, catching more and more homes on fire. And for the first time, as you see live, we have the helicopters back in the sky. For hours this morning, there was no air attack. We were not hearing the helicopters. It was simply too windy. So that is a good indication, the fact that we have those water dropping helicopters up there right now. They have made some drops that we've seen over the past 15 to 20 minutes. So we know that that aerial attack is only going to increase. They were hoping these winds were going to die down. A firefighter told me yesterday, when we were talking about these very dangerous Santa Ana winds, that when the winds get over 60 miles per hour as you watch it drop right there into the smoky backdrop. When the winds get over 60 miles per hour, it becomes a real concern to get those helicopters and the air tankers up in the sky. So it's nice to see that. They're working to increase any containment, which they haven't been able to do. The fire chief here in Ventura County spoke overnight saying that they weren't able to get ahead of this fire because of the wind. And so they weren't really trying to put the fire out. They were simply trying to save properties that could be saved, like some of them down here still standing on the corner of High Point and La Cumbre Circle. That's the difficult thing to see, is that some homes still standing, others, like 5 of them here on the end of this cul-de-sac, of course, a complete loss. We're going to monitor the winds with Leslie Lopez and see how things go here for the rest of the day. We know it's going to be a tough few days ahead in terms of the Santa Ana forecast. Back to you.
Mark, thank you. And you know, when you talk about those water droppings, one of the things we saw, these pilots are having to fly in these gusty conditions, so they'll be hovering in a gust, then the wind dies. And then they're fighting that battle as well. Brandy hit on the ground a little ways away from Mark Cota-Robles, still covering the Thomas fire, also in a neighborhood that has seen great devastation.
Oh my gosh, Philip, the winds just continue to push this fire throughout this area. And listen to this, the City of Ventura Police Department just showed up. They have been going door to door amongst people in the neighborhood, just knocking on doors, making sure everyone got out. And now they're in the distance. It's hard to see because of all the smoke. They went and got a garden hose, and they're attempting to save this house from a hot spot that just sparked up the hill farther. It's so smoky now, you can't see the massive flames. But these are the police officers who've been going door to door. One grabbed a fire extinguisher from the car, put out one hot spot, and then they realized they had a garden hose. So whoever lives on the corner of Endora and Foothill, you might want to call the City of Ventura Police Department, because these guys are not only going door to door making sure everyone got out, but they're also trying to put out hot spots and save the homes that have survived this fire so far. Their eyes are burning. Thank you so much, officers. Thank you very much. They only have these masks. They've been running up and down the hills, and these guys are also being heroes right now. I did ask them, have you run into anyone who stayed behind? And they said that they found one lady down the hill a little bit farther who had stayed behind to get some medication, heart medication, for her husband. And so they told her, no, you gotta go. We'll help get you out, but you need to leave right now. That's the case with so many people. Across the street here, you can still see what's burnt. This was on fire live during our newscasts at 6 a.m. and now this is all smoldering. Power lines down, power poles destroyed. Over in this direction, the winds, I can't tell you just how strong they are. You have to brace yourself every once in a while. But this area, every once in a while, we continue to see flare-ups. And we did meet a couple just moments ago that came back. They were so relieved to see that their house was still standing here, surrounded by so many homes that are gone. They had taken their 2 cats and they had checked on a horse that they have nearby, but they had to leave their chinchillas behind when they evacuated this area. They came back, they got their chinchillas, they're doing okay. They grabbed a couple of personal belongings, but Philip and Leslie, they just bought this house. Brand new, 6 months ago. They say it smells like smoke, but at least it's still standing. Unfortunately, so many homes around theirs are now gone.
That is so sad. Brandy, thank you so much. And of course, you know, in situations like this, your house is standing, but you have survivor's guilt. You look at all of your neighbors and they have lost their homes and you're thinking, why me? That's, you know, something else to deal with. Right now, you see Sid Garcia on the screen. He is live at the command post where we are expecting an update at some point. Sid, what can you tell us?
Right now, the brain trust here at the command post at the Ventura County Fairgrounds, and we've seen fire officials from all of the Ventura County fire departments, including CAL FIRE. They're in a meeting right now. It started about 7 o'clock this morning. They're getting all of the assessments, all of the numbers from the crews that have been out there. The latest number, as you can see over here now, the meeting broke out. We're expecting a news conference here maybe at the bottom of the hour or at 8 o'clock this morning for the latest. Right now, they're sticking to 31,000 acres burned, but that is expected to go up significantly at the next press briefing that can happen either at 7:30 or at 8 o'clock. Also, 150 structures destroyed. That includes homes and outbuildings. They're expecting that to go up significantly as well. To give you an idea of the enormous size of this fire, 31,000 acres. It stretches 14 miles from Santa Paula to Ventura. It's a 14-mile stretch that has been devastated by fire. 2 evacuation centers here at the fairgrounds and one in Ojai. The winds are going to start to pick up, and that's going to even be more of a challenge. But also, now that daylight is here, you've got more air resources that are going to be attacking the fire as well. Again, we are expecting a briefing either at the bottom of the hour, 7:30, or near 8 o'clock. Looks like the meeting just broke out to reassess everything. We will keep you posted on this, and we will carry it live for you and give you the latest numbers. But right now, one more thing. No fatalities. Remember earlier we were talking about early on in the evacuation, like yesterday, that maybe a person died? When sheriff's investigators went back into Santa Paula after the fire had burned through, it turns out what was killed was a dog. No people died. One firefighter injured in stable condition at an area hospital. So we were able to clear that up with fire officials here. But again, the meeting breaking up. Hopefully we'll learn something within the next half hour, 45 minutes when they get everything put together, and then come to us and tell us exactly where they are as far as trying to get an upper hand of this fire, because right now, 0 containment. And the winds here, when we're close to the coast, starting to pick up. Reporting live from the Ventura County Fairgrounds, I'm Sid Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay. Sid, thank you. And just to reiterate, we have 2 fires burning. Sid is at the Thomas fire, which is massive in its scale. That started about 6 o'clock last night. Then, of course, the Sylmar fire, which started about 3:42 this morning, that is continuing to gain strength because primarily of the wind and the fuel and the humidity levels, which are so low. Leslie Lopez is talking about that.
And through that Santa Paula area, we're seeing some very strong gusty winds, some gusts into the 60s reported. And just like Mark Cota-Robles was saying a moment ago, to get airborne with some of that air support that firefighters need, it just becomes very difficult at 60 miles per hour. Also looking at these winds, these are sustained winds. So of course the gusts are going to be stronger, 39-mile-per-hour sustained winds, gusts of about 55 to 65 miles per hour. Unfortunately, although we see a decline in velocity, it's talking about 28 to 22-mile-per-hour sustained winds is still very strong. And for firefighters, it means that they have quite the fight ahead of them. And the part that I'm just most concerned with, yes, the winds, of course, but the winds extend all the way through Thursday evening. So really, this isn't going to let up very well for the next couple of days. I will say, though, that the strongest velocities we're going to see in this next 2 to 3 day period will be this morning. However, we have strong bursts that do come back around tonight and then again tomorrow night. So we still have chances for these fires to continue to explode and get out of control. We are also going to show you some of the winds forecasted later on today. I'm going to put this in motion right about 2, 3, 4 o'clock. They start to decline a little bit, not a whole lot. And then right about the time we hit about 8 o'clock to 11 p.m., the winds really start to get going again through the areas of Ventura, through the foothill communities, through our canyons, through our passes. And Cagle Canyon, that's that fire near Sylmar. Cagle Canyon fire, unfortunately, is in a canyon. And when we talk about canyons and passes, they typically generate stronger winds as the winds have to travel through a tighter space. And that squeezing of the tighter space with the air mass shoots those winds out much faster. So the velocities that we've been seeing through that Sylmar area, especially about 4,000 feet in elevation, so very close by, 78 miles per hour is where we clocked one of those gusts. And with that, we're talking about over hurricane force winds. To give you an idea of what firefighters have to deal with on the ground, when they're trying to spray a fire and we have winds of 40 miles per hour, right now we're seeing double that. When they're trying to spray at 40 miles per hour, the water out of the hose is going sideways, so it's not hitting their intended target. And so here we are with that situation, double that in some cases through the areas of Sylmar. That'll continue on for us all the way through Thursday. So, I mean, really, this is going to be Mother Nature fighting firefighters that are trying to put this out. Unfortunately, it's going to be a tough go. I want to show you some of the winds that we're seeing here. Now, keep in mind, we have meters all over the place, and some of these meters are either close to the fires or just a little bit away. So the closest I can get you right now to Ventura is this Oxnard meter, which is clocking in sustained winds at 18. But I do know moments ago as I was looking, it was more like 30 miles per hour through that area where we're seeing that fire fire through the Thomas fire. There are some stronger winds, though, through the San Bernardino communities, 24-mile-per-hour sustained winds. We're seeing 35 in Ontario, 30-mile-per-hour sustained winds right now in Corona, strong winds into Chino and Fontana. We're looking at some very strong gusty winds through Burbank, 36-mile-per-hour winds. And again, this morning is when we're going to see the strongest of these wind velocities. But again, we have another round to go late tonight at about 11 o'clock. I will say that right about noon, it should quiet down a little bit for most areas. Some areas it'll still remain strong, but most areas we'll see a little decline. And I want to show you what's happening for Ventura. So unfortunately for that fire, we are looking at 38-mile-per-hour sustained winds as we're looking through some of those canyons and passes. And we know that it started in Santa Paula. It's moving to the west, so it is trying to trek out to the coastline. But we are going to see those winds continue on through noon. A slow and steady decline. 8 p.m., 25-mile-per-hour sustained winds. And again, that's still very gusty. Unfortunately, no real good news as far as wind and the weather. We're going to keep you updated, though, and I'm going to get you the most recent updates as to what we're seeing as far as those gusts going through that area, at least the two areas that we're looking at these major fires. Guys, over to you.
All right, Les, thanks very much. And we want to keep you updated on these fires as you head out the door this morning. Of course, we're going to be on television, but you can also get the very latest information by downloading our free ABC7 Los Angeles app. There you will find breaking news updates and the latest weather information, which is so important with these fires. You can also use our app to get push alerts whenever wildfires begin or evacuations are ordered.
You're watching Eyewitness News this morning. This is special coverage. We have preempted Good Morning America to cover the two fires that are burning across Southern California. The Thomas fire. We'll be getting an update from fire officials probably within the hour. Right now, the number is 31,000 acres, but that is likely much higher. 150 structures confirmed burned at this point, but that too likely much higher. We also have the Cagle Canyon fire, the Creek fire, that's burning near Sylmar. But we're going to talk to JT Alpaugh right now. He's above the Thomas fire, which so many homes are threatened by this. And JT, I wanted to start with a quick question to you. We were talking about, Leslie Lopez was talking about firefighters on the ground and how hard it is to use the fire hoses due to high winds. We watched one of the helicopters trying to make a drop in the gusty conditions. And it struck me, one of the things Scott Reif had said, you're battling these conditions, these gusty weather, and if it stops on you all of a sudden, that too can be a real challenge when you're trying to be so precise in water drops.
Yeah, it sure can, Philip, especially when they're coming up and down these ridge lines. They're going to get updrafts and downdrafts. And not only that, when they drop all that water, the weight is lifted from the aircraft, so there's a lot of lift created there. So dealing with those up and down drafts so low to the ground when the fire is creating its own weather and then they're dealing with those gusts in the winds aloft is really a challenge for these guys. And they're just heroes flying these aircraft, getting in there doing structure protection. And just wanted to show you where we're at now. We're in the Santa Paula area, and this is an area right off Cliff Road between Santa Paula Creek and Highway 150 here, Ojai Road. As you can see, all this area down near Cliff Road under immediate evacuation. You can see structure protection has moved into place. You can see all the strike teams running up and down Cliff Road here. And we saw a home right in the area here that was starting to catch fire. These palm trees right in this area were burning, and then it got under the eaves of that house you see in the center of your screen until that Ventura County strike team 326 got in there, and you can see maybe the fire in the backyard there burning. But we did see the eaves start to go, but you can see the intensity of the wind from the right to the left. That's from the north-northeast to the south-southwest, really going through this area. And even though there's not a lot of active flame, the real danger, as we mentioned before, is in the smoke and the embers that are embedded in that smoke, getting underneath the eaves of these homes into those small vent areas underneath those eaves and embedding in the attic. And that's how this fire is spreading. But that is the situation here in Santa Paula, here between Santa Paula Creek Road and Highway 150. The fire line has moved. This is the heel of the fire. So the southeast corner of the fire, or southwest corner, I should say, has moved south into the northern Santa Paula area, north of Highway 126, really causing a battle here for firefighters, Philip and Leslie.
Have you been able to see, since the sun has risen, more air assets in the area attacking this fire?
Yeah, we have seen at least 2 or 3 helicopters down in this area doing some drops. They are dipping out of a nearby water source. What I mean by dipping is getting their snorkels into the water and their Bambi buckets and filling them up with water and trying to get the water back to the fire very quickly. We have not seen any tanker activity yet. The wind still may be too strong for tankers, but that could really help out later when the winds die to get these tankers down and get those Phos-Chek fire retardant lines through these areas, at least to get it stopped. But we are, like I said, on the extreme east end of the fire. There's a whole other battle going on the extreme west end, about 12 miles to our west, as the fire continues to march. But we're going to widen out here and give you the big picture. Under the smoke in this area here is where Steckel Park is, Highway 150, and that's where the fire started. So this is the area, an extreme east end in the Santa Paula area. Guys, we'll throw it back to you.
All right, JT, thank you very much. Let's pivot over to the Creek Fire. We have Eyewitness News reporter Veronica Miracle. She is on the ground there. Veronica, what are you seeing?
Well, Leslie, we're at Fenton and Van Nuys, just below the LA City dump. And honestly, I cannot tell you where this wind is coming from because it's swirling really in all directions. The situation's really touch and go here. At times, visibility is a half a mile, and then within seconds, we'll see the smoke just blast us, and it'll be about 100 yards visibility. There are just a couple of people in the area that we are, but other than that, extremely quiet. There's 2 men who were up on this ridge using hoses to spray down the brush around their property. They just shifted to behind their home, but besides those 2 men, it's extremely quiet here. Helicopters are in the distance, but other than that, there's not a lot of activity besides this heavy smoke. It really hits you like a wave, and if you don't have the proper protection, it burns your eyes and your nose. There's a straggler over here who's obviously wearing what he can, some sort of protective bandana, but that's really not going to do anything for you as far as protecting you from particulate matter. Excuse me, sir. What are you doing out here? Do you live in this area?
Yeah, my name's Kevin Davis. I'm president of the neighborhood council for the area.
So what are you still doing here?
Just checking on the status before I get out of here, see if there's anybody who needs help getting out of here.
Have you seen anyone who does need help? Any elderly people? You guys checking in on your neighbors?
Not yet, but it reminds me how important emergency preparedness is. We've been discussing this recently because of the Latunic fire, and it definitely is going to become a hot topic at my next meeting.
Yeah, how's the smoke treating you? Obviously, pretty tough.
It's pretty tough. It's hard.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hope you get out safe.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So as you can see, just people having minutes to leave, gather their things and help their neighbors and get their animals, but very, very smoky. See, like I said, the wind shifting so quickly that the smoke really just pushes in, and then it'll leave the area within seconds. Back to you guys in the studio.
Well, Veronica, one thing I noticed with that gentleman you were speaking with, and then I start thinking the firefighters, you're trudging up and down those streets trying to communicate with people, trying to fight this fire. I can't imagine this is very easy to do. You get winded very quickly, I would assume.
Absolutely. And again, it's hard to breathe because when you're breathing in this smoke, obviously you know it's bad for you, but it really fills your lungs, gives you that kind of migraine-like headache, and of course burns your eyes with an instant contact.
Okay. Veronica, thank you. Let's go back. We're going to pivot again back. That is the Cagle Canyon fire. Mark Cota-Robles. Just another house. You've watched this all morning long. You're at the Thomas fire.
Yeah, Philip, we're now on Scenic Way. It's actually not far from where we were reporting earlier this morning. It's just off of High Point Drive. You can see this home going up as well, and this is even worse than we thought, of course, since we're on the ground. We don't really have a wide scope of the damage and the devastation, and as we made our way up here, probably less than a quarter mile away, home after home burnt to the ground, and this is one of them, of course, going up right now. Further up the street, we have one chimney after another. If my photographer can back up with me and give you this view off to our right up the street, and you can see none of the homes are left standing. It's simply one chimney after the next on each driveway. With us here are firefighters from San Manuel and Los Angeles County working on structure protection, as part of this home now is just kind of crumbled apart as the roof gives way because the flames are ripping through it. The winds we're still dealing with right now, Philip, still gusty at times, up to 20, 30 miles per hour. Small explosions here coming from inside of this home on Scenic Way. But again, the wind's so difficult at this location because we're higher. This is an elevated neighborhood above the 126 on the east side of Ventura. I spoke to one homeowner not too long ago who said that they left around 11 p.m. That's when they evacuated, and that's the good news to report. So many people here, despite losing their homes, they were able to pack up and get out early before the flames arrived. We'll send it back to you.
Mark, what are you sensing that as we watch this home so sadly go up in flames, what are the wind gusts there like? You can see the black thick smoke being blown from that house. What are you feeling in terms of the wind?
Well, they're swirling a bit. You know, they're not even going in one direction. I mean, they do feel like they're moving in a westerly direction, but they also swirl around. And we've heard that phrase before, that these fires can create their own weather system. And that's the real dangerous thing. They're incredibly unpredictable. At times, they'll be 10 miles per hour, then well over 30. And so that's what's tough for these firefighters. It is a wind-driven wildfire. A LA County firefighter told me yesterday that wind is king, and when we get these Santa Anas, it becomes so incredibly dangerous because you just can't beat the wind, and that's what's fueling this fire since yesterday evening. They also told me the one thing to remember is that we're not dealing with hot temperatures right now. It's amazing that it's December and we're talking about a devastating wildfire that's destroying so many homes. The temperatures are relatively cool, but I'm told in the firefighting line of business that a cold Santa Ana wind event can be even more dangerous than a hot Santa Ana wind, and that's because for so... One moment here. I'm so sorry. This is Jim. We met a moment ago. He just came up to tell me that your home is lost.
My house is gone, and all the neighbors around me are all gone as well. All of them. There's not a one that's left. They're all gone.
Not to overuse the term heartbreaking, but I felt it myself when I walked up and you could see one chimney after another.
All you see is chimneys. That's all there are. It's absolutely, it's just devastating.
I was just speaking to our news crew back at the station that you left around 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Tell us, what were you able to get? And again, I'm so sorry for the loss.
I got some important pictures and some things from my athletic career and whatnot. And my wife got some pictures and some other things like that. But basically everything is gone.
As you mentioned, you've lived here for years. These are your neighbors. You must know many of them.
I was just talking to one of them who's a neighbor across the street and down one house, and she's devastated as well. It's just a terrible situation. So my other neighbor is out of town right now, and so his house is gone. His truck is gone. I did get one of my prized vehicles out and on the street, and that lived. So that's fortunate. And then we got our other vehicles out, but I mean, this is how it is right there. You can see this fire right behind you. There's you were shooting earlier. It's just devastating. I mean, when it goes fast.
We're talking about these Santa Ana conditions. They were in the forecast. Were you ever prepared for something like this to happen?
No, we had a fire here years ago, and as I told you before, it came right to the top of the hill and started to go down the last hill. And that they were able to knock it down with the big airplanes and dropping the water drops. Before it actually hit the complex, you know, all the houses here. But this time, it came up from the bank here because the east winds, the Santa Ana winds, drove it right up the bank here. There's a big valley area here, and so that was all tinder grass. So in any event, it just came right up and then just went right over into the whole complex here.
And I want to fill in our viewers who are watching us live that we are on Scenic Way, and yes, we can feel the heat from this garage. One of your neighbors, Jim, this home a loss as well. Do you even begin to think about rebuilding?
Oh, I love this area. I will have another house here someday, I'm sure. So I've had this location, and this was going to be my die-in house. The only thing is the house died before I did. So.
Oftentimes when we have these big fires, we hear explosions from inside the garages where the propane tanks, gas lines are held.
Yeah.
You have to, a part of you has to feel lucky that you got out.
We were very fortunate on that. We got a few things, a few important things to us, but there's a lot more things that are still in there. I have some important things from my athletic career that had one world record, and I didn't get the certificate out for that. And some medals that I had gotten from Pan American Games, some gold medals and a world record there. And so those are all gone. So that's disappointing for me, I mean, because those were hard-won items. But, I mean, you can feel the heat as we're standing 25 yards away from this house, and it's just terribly hot.
And right here in between these two fire engines from various jurisdictions, Chino Valley Fire here right behind us, the fact that these firefighters are here on your street, they're doing all they can, but to see so many homes gone.
There's no chance that they have it. When a house actually catches and it's anything close to this, it's gone. They just have to go on to the next one and try and save the next one. But it's just, it's tremendously powerful, and the winds just keep on fueling it.
I'm sure you, as we have, witnessed the helicopters back in the sky this morning.
Oh yeah, I was down at the community park. That's where they refill them with water, and they had helicopter after helicopter. They had a double landing pad area and a couple of trucks that were actually filling the helicopters with water, and you can see them doing everything that they can. But there's no winning against this. Once a house catches, you're done.
And firefighters have told us that throughout the night, that when they get a fire like this, they simply don't try to put it out. They try to protect others that are still standing. And there was really no way to get ahead of this thing.
No, absolutely right. Once a house catches like this, it's gone. I mean, there's just no chance at all. And you can see this one fire truck is pulling away right now to go search for others and try to save others. So.
Jim, we appreciate it. I can't imagine under the circumstances for you to be speaking with us. So the best to you, the neighbors, the community. It's heartbreaking to watch this, and we know it's something you just can't really prepare for. So yeah, we thank you again for kind of giving us some insight.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Ventura, and this is my home. And it's just terrible to lose this many structures. I mean, it's absolutely devastating.
Hey, Mark.
So crazy situation.
Mark.
Jim, thank you again.
What is Jim's
go ahead,
last
Philip.
name?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is Mark?
Yeah, Jim, and we spoke earlier. Jim, again, your last name, Philip is asking.
McConica, M-C-C-O-N-I-C-A.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you again.
Yeah, we just feel for him and all of the things that he accomplished.
And firefighters asking us to back up.
He's a former swimmer. You heard him mention the gold medals that he won. That was the 1971 Pan American Games when he competed in Colombia. He included the 400-meter freestyle, the 4x200-meter freestyle relay. He had a world record, and some of those things he said he couldn't get out. He couldn't get the certificate out. He couldn't, and those are, and then of course, to hear him talk about other people, the person who's on vacation, who lost everything. So each of these people trying to find a silver lining. He got some things out, but not all. And then he could see other people who lost so much.
A noted American athlete. He wanted to live until he passed away in this house. And sadly, the house is gone. It's devastating. It really brings you to your knees to listen to these stories and see the devastation and what these people are actually going through, the memories that have gone up in flames.
And as we watched this fire, we heard from Jim and we were watching this fire, and I think everyone in the studio and then Mark and Jim both talked about it. I don't know that I've seen the intensity of fire so closely as we've seen with so many of these homes. We watched them catch on fire, and then that was just fanned, and we watched the garage door collapse, and then the flames just pouring over like a waterfall of fire. And they could feel it in the street. We saw something explode. Mark made reference to that. But this is just a scene playing out over and over in two different areas, Sylmar and Ventura.
And what's interesting is what they said is that wind-driven fire that is cold is more devastating than the heat with the Santa Ana condition. That's difficult for me to believe, but I'm sure.
Trust them.
Yeah, trust them with that.
I would assume maybe, I don't even know.
I don't know about the humidity levels
and what
it does.
Right now.
Yeah, I would think that the heat would be more devastating, Les.
You know, we are, with this one, we're looking at just the wind being the biggest factor If you can consider this as a blowtorch, I mean, this picture that you're looking at right here is just a really good indication of how strong those winds are. And you can see this home crumbling before your eyes, and it's just so devastating to watch. But we are looking at, again, through this area, gusts of about 66 miles per hour to 67 miles per hour at times. Coming up, I'm going to show you what our Live Mega Doppler 7000 HD is capturing. Coming up, we're going to show you that. But guys, I want to send it over to you. But you know, there is just a lot going on, and really Mother Nature's not letting up.
Okay, we've got Josh Haskell. He's in an area of northern Ventura off of Highway 33. A lot of smoke you can see. And Josh, I'm getting word there was a natural gas line fed fire in that location.
Yeah, Philip, we're hearing actually conflicting reports about that. There's a man who lived at this home over here who's a welder, so we heard that it was actually his gas tank of his home. But just to give you a sense, we're in the Valle Vista area on Floral Drive right now, and the smoke wasn't as bad when we first got here, but it is now just blowing because some homes across the street are fine, and then if you look over my shoulder, firefighters right now are working on this home, and it is fully engulfed right now. We have a Ventura County fire here, and they're trying to get engines here, but it's just very, very difficult and not fast enough. As right now I've counted 4 homes in this area right now that are on fire. I want to bring in John Ashford. Sir, you live on a street over, right? Tell us how your home is.
My house is okay right now. We're kind of trying to, I got the RV already, and I'm afraid to leave because if I leave, I won't get back. So I'm going to wait till the last minute.
And tell us, are these your neighbors here? What's it like to see these homes on fire?
It's amazing. I mean, this track been here since the 50s, and this is the closest it's come. We've had a couple close calls before, but fortunately the wind's not blowing, and we'll be able to hold on, I hope.
When I first arrived, you were telling me that there's only one way in and one way out of this community.
There's only one road that comes in and out of here, and it's that one you came in on, and that's it.
Have authorities asked you to evacuate?
Yes. Yeah, they came by and said, get out. Everybody needs to go. So I grabbed everything I could, and...
So tell us about your decision not to evacuate.
Well, I'm just going to wait and see what happens with the wind, because like I said, if we leave, we're not going to get back. So, man, this place is smoking up. Definitely.
Is your car packed right now?
My RV is. I'm going to have to leave my work truck and all of that stuff, but at least I'll have a place to live if my house goes.
And just so we can tell our viewers, where is your house exactly?
It's 1 block down.
1 block down.
Larkspur Drive.
Right. What's your name again, sir?
John Ashford.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Wish you luck. As we walk a little bit, we're going to show you that house that is fully engulfed right now. You can see there's a hose from this engine right here. And then Sean, if you pan to the left, across the street where the fire started, these homes still standing. And you can see that hillside up there. And that's the scene from here, guys. It is just incredibly smoky, hard to breathe. And you heard from that gentleman, his RV is packed. Everyone in this area asked to evacuate, but some people just aren't leaving. We've seen some people on their roofs with hoses, just trying to wet their roofs in their yards to try and save their homes. But right now, it's not looking too good in this Valle Vista area here in Ventura County.
Josh, thank you very much for that live update. Let's check in with Sid Garcia. He is live at the command post at the Ventura County Fairgrounds. Sid, do you have an update?
The update is this: at about 8:15 this morning, microphones are set up. Officials of Ventura County Fire and other fire departments that have been here, we're going to get an update. Right now, they're holding steady at 31,000 acres burned, but as we've been reporting to you all morning long, that is expected to go up considerably. 150 structures destroyed. That number expected to go up considerably as well. One clarification: early on in the fire, during the evacuations, the first evacuations, it was sadness that there was a fatality. Well, it turns out after sheriff's investigators went back into the area where this accident was, where they thought the fatality was, what died was a dog. No people died. One firefighter has been injured in stable condition at an area hospital. Again, At 7 o'clock this morning, fire officials with Ventura County Cal Fire and other agencies taking part in this battle with this huge, massive fire. We're meeting. They got the numbers. 8:15, I'm told, is when they're going to come out here and talk to us and let us know what the latest is on this fire. The winds are starting to pick up here. Mother Nature is going to really dictate how this is going to be fought. But now that daylight is here, the aerial assault can begin. Again, 31,000 acres, but that's expected to go up. And at about 8:15 this morning, which is in about 20 minutes from now, we're expecting fire officials from Ventura County, Cal Fire, to come to talk to us and give us the latest numbers that they've received from their people out in the field. We'll bring it to you live. Reporting live from the Ventura County Fairgrounds, I'm Sid Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Sid, thank you very much for that. We will wait for that to happen and get more information. Right now, we're seeing from JT's vantage point, he is flying from the Thomas fire over to the Creek fire. JT, what can you tell us?
Well, here's what we know. We're kind of get back into the area right now, and apparently there was an aircraft that got a little too close to firefighting aircraft, so they're holding all aircraft out right now. We're freeway through the Newhall Pass. You can see the 14 in the background here. We understood the super scoopers, the ones based out of Van Nuys on contract with LA County, they came in to try to help with this fire, try to get some water down on it. They just couldn't deal with it. It was just too much. Two winds were too strong, too low. They couldn't get into the area to work it, so they were canceled, flew back to Van Nuys. That's the situation with them. No tanker activity. We know LA City Fire and LA County Fire are working up in this area, but that's a long shot, and that gives you an idea of how strong the winds are coming out of the northeast to the southwest, from the left to the right, just blanketing the entire San Fernando Valley with the smoke. We'll pull out to the right and show you that. So it definitely people with respiratory issues, with allergies to smoke, you are really feeling it in the San Fernando Valley. If you can keep your windows and doors shut and use the air conditioning. But we're getting reports too of a lot of power outages. Simi Valley has been hit with a power outage now, is what we're getting reports of too. So fire is definitely affecting power in the area. We're trying to make our way and get clearance with into the Creek fire, but having a little bit of issue with that. But as soon as we get back in there, guys, we're going to give you the update on the progress of the fire, where it's at, where it's going, and what structures are currently threatened. Live from Air 7 HD over the Newhall Pass, JT Alpa, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, JT, thank you very much. So as JT continue his trek, we want to make sure you're updated about the fires as you head out the door this morning. And then again, remember, this is a major wind event across Southern California. There's going to be other kind of damage, other outages around town. So we'll be keeping you updated on all of this. We'll be on television here, but you can also get the very latest information by downloading our free ABC 7 Los Angeles app. You'll find breaking news updates, the latest weather information. Again, any kind of damage, whether it's fire-related or wind-related, will also help you use our app to get push alerts whenever the wildfires begin or evacuations are ordered.
And as we see that smoke billowing up into the air, it's a reminder that if you have any sort of, it's difficult in Santa Ana conditions anyway to breathe, and especially if you have some kind of underlying issue. So just be aware of that, because those particulates can get down into the lungs, especially if you have asthma or something like that. So be aware of that. We're going to go to Christina Salvo. She is live at the Creek fire near Tujunga. Christina.
Yes, Leslie, we actually just moved off of Cagle Canyon Trail to E-Trail Street, and you can see what's going on behind me. Unfortunately, we are very sad to have to report this house looks to be just a total loss. You can see firefighters doing all they can with the hoses to try to put out the flames, but this has been burning for, I'd say at least 20 minutes. We've seen the roof fall in, the flames still going, just so much destruction on the inside. Again, this is on E-Trail, and unfortunately there's about 3 or 4 houses just up the road from here. We've seen several residents going up to try and check on their properties to see if anything has survived. I did briefly speak with one of the residents that had a house just up there. She's assuming her property is gone, but was trying to keep optimistic, saying, you know, at least they are all alive. They were able to get all their animals and all the residents out safely. So they're trying to look on the bright side here, but pretty difficult when you're watching your house go up in flames like this. A dangerous situation, though, because of all the power lines right by. We do have a live wire not far away, so that is just one of the threats that firefighters and residents who choose to stay in this area have to contend with. But a very devastating situation to have to bring to you. That is the latest, though, in Lakeview Terrace from the Creek Fire. We'll send it back to you guys.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. That line down, remember there are also lines that are going to have been blown down as well this morning. La Crescenta, we heard that they had some power outages. This is our live camera from Burbank. This is just a camera we use every single day. You can see this creek fire burning off in the distance. We called Burbank Airport. At this point, we've heard that there are no there's no effect on air operations at the airport as a result of the fire. Just wanted to let you know that. But again, another thing too, there's going to be wind damage throughout Southern California. I've seen trees down. We have other news stories going on because of the wind, but right now our focus is on the Creek Fire and on the Thomas Fire, both burning out of control.
Yes, and both wind-driven fires, perhaps. The Creek Fire has been more affected by the winds because they are gusting at higher speeds there. Leslie Lopez is here for that.
You know, as we're looking at that live picture, I just wanted to also show you what's happening in Thomas. This is what our live Mega Doppler 7000 HD is picking up. It's a plume of smoke that is extending all the way out to the coastline, and that's because of that fire that is rolling through the area, and some of that smoke even extending down into areas of Oxnard, so you may be seeing that as well. I also want to take you over to some of the winds that we're currently seeing, and some of those winds through the areas of Malibu, through the areas of Ventura, they're into the 30s. That's sustained. Now we're talking about gusts that are much stronger. We've seen a 67-mile-per-hour gust roll through the area, a 66-mile-per-hour gust roll through the area of Ventura, and then I want to also take you over to the Sylmar area where we're seeing that fire burning through the Cagle Canyon area just near Sylmar, and it's getting closer to that residential community. These winds are also just about 39, 40-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, very, very strong sustained winds with gusts of about 67 miles per hour in this location as well. So again, we're looking at gusts that are exceeding the 60s, getting into the upper 60s. Earlier this morning, we saw a 78-mile-per-hour gust, and we have a red flag warning in effect. This forecast showing you that the winds are only going to continue to stay strong all the way through the early afternoon. Right about 2 to 4 o'clock this afternoon, they take a little tiny break. I mean, I wouldn't even say a break. They just quiet down a little bit more. So velocities are still very strong, but they go down about a couple of miles per hour, and then they continue to pick up by the time we're heading into 11 o'clock this evening. Winds right now, again, we are just talking about where we have meters. We have weather stations all over the Southland. Some of these meters aren't close enough to the fire. This one over in Oxnard says 18, but we know that it's more like 30. And then also taking you over into areas of Ontario, San Bernardino, Corona, Chino, Fontana. Some of those winds around 37 miles per hour. So stronger winds even in that area, and strong winds rolling through the areas of Burbank as well. And then, of course, we're talking about near Sylmar, closer to 30. It just depends on where those meters end up being. Now, I want to get to your forecast for Ventura because I'm showing you not really much in the way of good news. 38-mile-per-hour sustained winds at 6 a.m. At noon, 38, 36 at 4 p.m., 25 if you're heading out about 8 p.m. And then I would say 11 o'clock tonight, we have winds picking up yet again. And unfortunately, adding insult to injury, the red flag warning is extending all the way through Thursday evening. So this isn't letting up anytime soon. And I am looking at another big burst of wind tonight, another big burst tomorrow night. Finally, we could say goodbye to the Santa Anas on Friday, early morning about midnight. But again, this is going to be several days of it. And then again, Santa Paula not looking any better. And then if you are going to be heading into the areas of Sylmar, this is what it looks like for the forecast. Guys, over to you.
Okay, thank you. They've moved up the update. So we're going to go back out to Ventura County and listen in to the update on the Thomas Fire from fire officials.
Spread and rapidly progressed towards the city of Ventura. Current fire size now is about 45,000 acres and at least 150 structures are lost. We did have some successes last night. We successfully evacuated over 27,000 people. We also successfully utilized the California mutual aid system and received quite a bit of help from all of our neighbors to the north and the south of us. It was really an exceptional show of partnership and a display of the mutual aid system. Throughout the night, resources came into Ventura County. We were literally tapped out as we were leapfrogging along, protecting structures all along the fire front from Santa Paula to the city of Ventura. And we placed those resources right into action as they showed up here at the fairgrounds, and we placed them into service. With that, I would like to turn it over to our county sheriff's office, Kevin Donahue.
Good morning. Just to reiterate what the chief said, we did have a lot of successes last night, despite the battle that was in front of us. We have over 100 sheriff's personnel working in the fire areas, dealing with evacuations, supporting the fire department with those evacuations. We're asking people that are in the area to avoid the fire areas. We'd like the people that are interested in taking pictures and looking to stay away from the fire areas. Also, all of the shelter information can be found on readyventuracounty.org website. You can also register for VC Alert at that website so that you can get notified via cell phone for any other evacuation notices. With that, we'll open up to any questions that you might have.
Can you tell us about the fire behavior and the challenges you faced last night and today?
Sure, the question was about the fire behavior. We're going to be faced with basically the same challenges that we had yesterday. We have extremely high winds, very, very low relative humidities, and our fuel conditions out there are absolutely about as bad as they could be for fire spread. So we're very concerned about the wind popping up again today and pushing the fire a little bit further towards the west. And it's going to be a challenge. Fortunately, we have daylight now. We'll be able to have air resources up. We should see a number of air tankers and helicopters flying in short order.
Chief, is there a concern that with the high wind and the powerful gusts that the aerosol may not be safe enough for those guys to even go in there and help out with the fire?
Sure, that's always a concern. You know, with the winds being high, obviously it can get to the point where we can no longer fly aircraft. As far as the wind conditions go right now, the conditions are favorable for both types of aircraft, so our hope is that it remains that way throughout the day. I don't have any estimate. I know we have a number of areas that are without power. It's causing some challenges too, and that the power runs some of our pump stations, and we find that some of our water systems and the hydrants are without water. And we had a battalion chief that was injured in a traffic collision last night, bumps and bruises. He's been released from the hospital, should be okay.
How large is this fire spread? What was the growth overnight?
The growth, well, it grew incrementally. Obviously, it started as a small fire in Santa Paula, and it's grown to 45,000 acres. It was just exponential, huge growth because the winds, 50-mile-an-hour out of the east, were just pushing it and growing it very, very large, very quickly.
Still moving west, and what are the areas of most concern? You're looking at all places.
Sure. So our biggest areas of concern right now are the city of Ventura with structure protection, and also as the wind picks up, still the cities of Santa Paula and Upper Ojai, the community of Upper Ojai.
All of those areas like a mandatory or voluntary evacuation?
All of those areas have at least some form of both types of evacuations. Any other questions?
I can go on for days. I can. A lot of the residents who seem to think, and I want you to go back and ask the question about the aerial assault, feel as if once the planes start flying, you've got a better chance of stopping this or at least slowing it down. Is that too optimistic of that?
It really is dependent on the winds. You're right. We're going to use the aerial assault basically on the flanks of the fire where we can actually stop it as it starts coming into the cities. But generally, the aerial assault's not very effective at the very head of the fire because the fire can spot so far in advance of the fire, a quarter mile, a half a mile in advance of where the fire front is. So a retardant line doesn't provide much to stop embers that are traveling much, much further than the width of the retardant line.
As far as the areas that have been evacuated and protecting those structures, what have you been able to do just to assure residents that when they come home, their homes are going to be there, basically preventing people from going in and robbing the places and moving?
Sure. So, and it's normal for people, especially, as we said, 27,000 people were evacuated. Almost none of them know the status of their homes. So our goal today is to get as much information out to the public as possible to repopulate the areas as soon as it's safe. That means we don't have firefighting personnel in there, that the power lines have been addressed, and electric and power and gas issues have all been addressed. So that's our goal, is to repopulate those areas in as orderly a fashion as possible.
Are we talking days maybe before anybody is allowed to go home because of the tremendous size of this fire?
It certainly could be that in some areas. We'll go through and evaluate all of the different areas for the risks and repopulate as we deem safe.
We've added additional resources to patrol the burn areas that are evacuated for security reasons. So we'll have extra deputies out there for that, specifically for that purpose, for that concern. I'm sorry?
Have you had any issues with that yet, sir?
No, we have not.
So I heard a question about the oil facilities. Right, as it moves towards the west, we do have a number of oil facilities in there. Fortunately, those all have great roads that are very accessible, so the firefighters will be up there probably in our smaller Type 3 engines throughout the day.
What should residents expect? Will you speak to them and tell them what they should expect? What areas should be prepared to go? And just take them through the day.
Yeah, so obviously our job is to communicate and give as much information to the residents that are affected and those that may be affected. There's still a high possibility that we will be evacuating additional areas, and so we will be providing information to the residents throughout the day. There's also a plethora of information that's available online also that the residents can go to.
Well, some of them, because of the lack of power, they have no Wi-Fi. One woman I spoke to got a text from someone who told her basically the backyard is on fire. So should they rely on those?
Well, yes, obviously, those are challenges we always have during fires. Is a lot of the infrastructure is destroyed, cell sites go down, so it's a challenge with the communications, but as much as we can, we'll be communicating via the media, through online, through text, and hopefully in person too.
Chief, you're saying 150 structures as of now. You're saying that's pretty much going to hold. But have you been able to go in there and do a real walking damage assessment of what you've got?
We have not been able to. Most of the areas are not safe for us to go in and start doing our damage assessment as of right now. So we would imagine those numbers will change throughout the day and probably over the course of the next few days.
Are there some specific neighborhoods in the city of Ventura that you're particularly concerned about? Again, aerial pictures, people on the ground showing homes, $1 million plus, going up all throughout the night.
Sure. Right, so not specific neighborhoods, but obviously anywhere that was up around the WUI, the wildland urban interface, we obviously have concerns with that as the fire impacted. The fire impacted all the neighborhoods without consideration of any geographical boundaries.
You mentioned the urban interface on that. A lot of those homes when I was up there looked like they had 75 to 100 feet of clearance. It didn't make a damn bit of difference. The fire blew right through and killed those homes.
You're right, and what we do is we have a very aggressive defensible space program here in the county that doesn't always ensure that we're always going to be able to protect every home. What you have, especially in these high wind-driven fires, is this tremendous ember environment, and you get these embers that work their way into the smallest little places through attic vents, and a lot of times that's where the fires start.
Can you talk about losing resources possibly to the other fire now?
We certainly don't anticipate losing any of our ground resources here. We will be competing for the same air resources, so that's certainly a possibility.
What's a better on your air power, your air attack on this? What's better to go with, helicopters or fixed wings on this type of fire, given the terrain, given the homes you're trying to protect?
Well, my simple answer is both, and it really depends. We're going to be using the fixed wing aircraft really to secure a lot of our fire lines along the perimeter, and then we'll be working with our rotor wing or our helicopters in close to all the structures to work those hot spots out. We don't have a cause for the fire.
Are those planes out now?
They're not out now. I think they should be up within an hour.
And I heard you had trouble giving us maps where the people were being evacuated from one of the sites was down. Is there a place to get the map of all of the evacuation roads?
ReadyVenturaCounty.org is the website.
Not listed, but it doesn't have a map.
A map with the
Map of that. ReadyVentura.org just lists it. And people like to see the map. If you had a map in another website that wasn't working.
We'll work on getting
yeah, we could work on that.
Do we have any other questions?
There was a fatality reported early last night.
That's what we've heard, which turns out to be a fortunate piece of misinformation.
How many firefighters are currently under fire?
Right. I don't have an exact number, but it's well over 1,000.
Well over 1,000 firefighters. These
As
are
of
some
right
of the
now, we don't
highlighted
have
points that we are hearing from the news conference on the Thomas fire. First and foremost, it was 31,000 acres. It has grown to 45,000 acres. As for the homes and structures that have been damaged or destroyed, it remains at 150, but they still have to do a damage assessment this morning and they expect that number to grow. But looking ahead, the firefight from the air is about to get started in an hour if it hasn't already. With air assets.
Yeah, and they have now, looks to be, they're wrapping that up. And one of the things that jumped out at me is that the ground resources are going to remain in place, but they will have to share the air resources. They're competing for the same air resources between the Thomas fire and the Creek fire, which is burning near Sylmar. The fixed wing aircraft they're going to use to secure the fire lines, and then the structure protection will be for our other ones. But some of the structures that we've lost, Christina Salvo was at one, Mark Carter Robles, Brandy Hitt, all of our reporters have seen structures burn. But JT Alpa is also in Air 7. So right now we're going to continue our coverage. We're going to Christina Salvo. She is at the Creek fire. Unfortunately, you've watched a couple of homes.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating, and to see the residents watch them burn as well. A lot of them watching from the distance earlier this morning, and just, you know, with heavy hearts saying that this is what they kind of expect living in canyons, but it still does not prepare them for the sight to see their homes up in flames. This one's still burning, and just so devastating to see. The owner of this home was telling me that he stayed in here until 4 a.m. and then didn't leave till the flames were right up against the fence in the backyard, and then about 6 a.m. it was totally destroyed. There's a handful of homes on this street, this is on E Trail just off of Cagle Canyon Road, that have burned. Also, I'm told by firefighters, about 6 or 7 homes on Cagle Canyon Road have burned as well. That was what one firefighter said he witnessed. So a very devastating situation. Of course, we always hope when fires break out that we don't lose any property, but at least at this point, we don't have any reports of any injuries. Everybody seems to have gotten out safely with their pets. I know horses were the big concern earlier this morning. We saw lots of people loading up their horse trailers to get their animals out to safety. That appears to have been the case. Right now, the firefighters just working on containing. We just heard a big boom, so probably a roof collapsed on one of these homes. The big concern right now is power wires in the area. Just one of the firefighters making sure that he's containing a corner of the house right there where we've seen some flames go. He doesn't want to see that that power line come down and then have a live wire exposed for all the firefighters for adding additional danger. But that is the latest right now in Lakeview Terrace. Christina Salvo, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, Christina, thank you very much for that. We are joined on the telephone by Ellen Chang with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Ellen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Can you first let us know about the power outages? How many are there?
Yes. So currently, as a result of the wind that we are experiencing, we have 5,145 customers affected due to this wind, and they are experiencing a loss of power. And that is less than 1% of our overall power customers, which is 1.5 million. And we know it's a big disruption to them, and we do have crews out there working as quickly but safely as possible. But as you well know right now, it is a very challenging situation. So safety is our #1 priority at this time.
Ellen, you talk about over 5,000 customers affected with the fires, but I can't imagine you're just completely clear of the wind in general knocking out power. Have you had any problems unrelated to the fires necessarily that are still caused by the wind?
I actually want to clarify it's the other way around. The customers we have without power are due to the winds. We're keeping a close eye on the fire because that's obviously in our service area in Sylmar, but we don't have any reports of the fire itself being the cause of of the loss of power. So the number that I gave you, the more than 5,000, is wind related. But we are obviously keeping a very close watch on the situation relating to the fire.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. I misheard what you were saying. So
no problem.
So double checking here. That is all wind related, not fire related. Thank you for correcting me on that one.
No problem.
Ellen, now where are these outages taking place?
Yes, so the Valley is taking the brunt of this. So the Valley communities are where we're getting that 5,000 number. In our metro, LA downtown area, we're not seeing any wind-related outages at this point. But, in communities like Sherman Oaks and Sylmar, we are seeing that they're experiencing the brunt of this outage.
Did you increase staff because you knew this wind event was coming? Are people on standby, ready to go for this?
Well, we're definitely prepared and aware since the reports of this Santa Ana wind situation was on all of our radars. So we definitely were aware and prepared and have crews ready to respond. And as a matter of course, I do want to mention, for example, tree branches, palm fronds. Those are the big the big elements out there that are causing these outages, the down lines from tree branches and palm fronds that can travel quite a ways. So we do have crews that, as a matter of course, as part of their job, that they are trimming trees to make sure, they're not in close contact with our power lines. But when you have winds of this magnitude, you're going to get tree branches and palm fronds from, quite a ways away. So this is what's mostly causing the outages that we're seeing right now.
Ellen, do you have any advice for people who have had power outages or they are in the affected areas, what they should do to stay safe or what they should do to protect their homes?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. First of all, back to the downed power lines, we want to make sure everybody assumes that a downed line is energized. Do not make contact, and please call us right away at 1-800-DIAL-DWP. So that's first and foremost. As far as, power outages at home, we obviously advise people to have flashlights and to let us know, to feel free to call that same number to let us know that they are experiencing these outages, and we will, send a crew out to them. But during this time, safety is number one for our crews and our customers as well. So we do want to remind folks not to make contact with any downed lines if they do see that, and to report that to us right away.
Okay. Ellen, thank you very much. That's Ellen Chang from LADWP. Over 5,000 customers affected. That's due to wind only, this wind event. They are monitoring everything that's going on with the creek fire. That's the shots you're looking at there. We were talking about that. We've seen trees come down today, though. I mean,
yes.
Ellen was talking about palm fronds and things like that. Trees have come down. So let's go over to Leslie Lopez. We'll talk a little bit about the weather. We're expecting an update from fire officials at 8:30 regarding the creek fire, so we'll get some more details on that. But Leslie, let's talk about the weather that we've been dealing with now for a couple of days on this.
We have a red flag warning. We have a high wind warning. Whenever we produce these high wind warnings and put them into effect, they're typically going to let you know that we have winds of 50 miles per hour or more. 50-mile-per-hour winds bring down trees and power lines. That's how powerful they are. And right now we are exceeding that. We have some gusts that are being clocked in around 60 to 67 miles per hour through the Ventura area, through the area where we're seeing that fire burning near Sylmar over in Cagle Canyon. That's the creek fire. This is the Thomas fire here through Ventura. The sustained winds are into the 30s, as much as 38-mile-per-hour sustained winds. And again, those gusts are much stronger, into the 60s. So very powerful Santa Ana that has moved through the area. And when we talk about Santa Ana winds, we can have a hot Santa Ana or a cold Santa Ana. And typically it's the cold Santa Anas that drive in the strongest winds for us. And so this is that typical case that we usually see during December and January. However, I will say it's typical to get strong Santa Anas during these months, but this strong, it is quite powerful, ferocious winds moving through the area, and big concerns. We haven't seen these strong velocities in a while through Southern California. So if we can categorize this Santa Ana, if we had levels like we do for other extreme weather like hurricanes and tornadoes, this Santa Ana event would be up there. We could call it the max scale, because we are looking at, in some areas, even hurricane force winds. Earlier today, believe it or not, 78-mile-per-hour gust was clocked through the area of Cagle Canyon just nearby. That 78-mile-per-hour gust was early this morning around 5 o'clock. We've seen 66-mile-per-hour gusts to about 67, but hurricane force winds are 74, so exceeded that. Right now we're looking at about 34 to 43. There you are, 43-mile-per-hour sustained winds through the area of that Cagle Canyon fire. So for firefighters, I mean, they can't get ahead of that fire to try to put it out. I mean, they're really chasing it around, especially with those embers that are flying in many directions. Spot fires are going up in a lot of places throughout these two fires. So big concerns as we are continuing through the next several hours. I have to say that no good news as far as winds are concerned. They're still going to remain strong. Guys, over to you.
All right, Leslie, thank you very much for that. Let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Josh Haskell. He is at the Thomas Fire for us in Ventura County. Josh.
Leslie, it is just a devastating scene here. I'm going to step out of the frame. As you can see, firefighters are doing all they can, but they just cannot save some of these homes. There's two next to each other that are completely engulfed. There's firefighters on top of their engines with homes on the ground, but it is just a very tough scene. We just spoke to Dana Hansen. She's lived here for 23 years. She packed up her car, was planning on leaving at 6 in the morning, but just could not watch her home burn. She stayed here with a hose in the front yard. As you can see, it is completely lost. Let's try and get a little closer right now as we give these firefighters their space. There's just not enough engines in this particular area to stop this fire from spreading. The wind has calmed down a little bit since we first got here, but as you can see, the fire started on this home, and now you can see those flames on the roof. And then we were just talking to a man, Enrique, who lives right next door, and he's here trying to save his house, not knowing how fast this fire will spread. As you take a look at our live picture right now.
Well, Josh, I can only imagine an individual trying to make progress on their home when you've got those resources going right at that fire, and they're barely keeping this thing under control.
This is her home that you're seeing a live picture of, and she's just been standing out here, did her best to save her home. And Sean, as we pan to the side, Dana, tell us right now what you're seeing.
Our house burned down and everything we worked all our lives for is just gone. I don't have any words to say.
And we know that you were here at 6 a.m. You were planning on leaving, but as the fire spread from this hillside here and jumped to your house, did you feel like there was anything you could do or firefighters could do?
I don't know. We had left and the fire was still over there. I didn't think it would come over here, and this is where it showed up at my house. So I don't know.
We're so sorry that you and your family are going through this right now, and we know that you said your family is fine.
Safe. My family's safe.
And were you able to save any mementos, put them in your car?
Some photographs. We did save photographs.
And is the rest of your family here, or?
My husband.
I know that there have been fires in this area before, but anything like this?
Never. No, never.
Thank you. We'll let you get back to your husband. Thank you. And that is the scene here in Valle Vista, as that homeowner, Dana Hansen, watches her home burn to the ground. And there are still more homes on fire, firefighters doing what they can. We count about 8 engines on this street right now, but the fire continues to spread. We have not seen any airdrops so far, no helicopters, but we're of course going to stay here and continue to tell this really sad story here in the Valle Vista neighborhood on Floral Drive in Ventura County. We'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Now, Josh is at the Thomas Fire. Let's go to Veronica Miracle. She is at the other fire, the Creek Fire near Sylmar. And Veronica, we can see the wind blowing you around there as well.
It really is, and I think that's what makes it so scary out here. Even as firefighters are working on the fire, we're worried about trees coming down on us. There's a palm tree in the back there that is burning in the middle. I mean, it was ablaze just a minute ago, and now we're concerned that it's going to break in half. Now, to give you a sense of where we are, we're in Santiago Estates. on Via San Marino, I believe. Via San Anselmo. This home behind me, 603. It appears that it is destroyed. Firefighters were working on the roof a minute ago, but they've since moved on to the next house, the garage inside, completely charred, and it appears inside as well. If I walk a little bit careful on the hoses there, looks like firefighters are working on 601. I believe they're taking a chainsaw to the side of the house, trying to rip off some of that wood to make sure that the fire isn't getting inside the house. Again, really precarious situation out here, but it's so interesting to see where the fire is spreading. Just like these garbage pails, these have burned, yet the house next to it is standing, and then the house across the street is pretty much destroyed from this vantage point. The wind really making it difficult, and that dust just blowing everywhere, you guys. Back to you in the studio.
Veronica, if I could ask you, can you give us a change in the firefight from when you first arrived, and how you've seen things developed from the ability of firefighters to get in there and be proactive like you saw in that a moment ago? I mean, it seems like I'm seeing more fire crews now than at your first location.
Well, I agree with you. I think what they're doing is they're going to the really heavily populated areas that are high risk, and they're moving in to try and protect what they can. At this point, they've kind of given up on houses that have already burned, and they're moving toward more of protecting the homes, ripping out vegetation that surrounds homes that could potentially set them ablaze. But they really are stretched thin. It's like you drive a couple miles and you'll see a lot of firefighters, and then you keep driving and there's fire on the hillside, neighbors standing everywhere. It's pretty much just going where they can and saving what they can at this point.
Veronica, now what is it like for you coming to this area and seeing this just as a personal thought of yours?
Yeah, well, Leslie, as you know, I've been here for about 4 months now. I've truly never experienced this type of wind. I was talking to my photographer who's been here. He's a veteran here. He said he's never seen wind sustain this long. Usually these winds will come through, pick up, and then head out. And I think that is the biggest shock for me, is seeing how strong these winds are really pushing this area. We're worried about down power lines. We're worried about trees falling. We're worried about debris coming in our direction, the dust, so many other factors even besides the firefight that you really have to worry about. I think that's the most shocking for me.
Okay. Veronica, thank you. Here's so much work going on. She talked about the conditions, the sustained winds, and how bad it is, and it's going to stay this way. Leslie Lopez has been telling us this is a wind event that's going to be here for a little while. You see firefighters working hard, trying to do what they can to cool things down. Looks to me like they're trying to get some water under the house in some way, shape, or form. We want to show you a camera from our Burbank camera as we kind of look at the firefighters there. This is what so many people across Southern California are seeing today. Mm-hmm. This is the smoke over Burbank. Scott Reif was talking about reduced visibility for planes in and out of Burbank Airport, also Van Nuys Airport. We've called. There are no flight affected operations as a result of the fire. But if you want breaking news updates on the go, you can download the ABC7 Los Angeles app. A lot of people are going to be driving around town today. They're going to see this. Maybe they've missed it. I don't know how. 2 huge fires like this, but maybe you've missed something. This is a good way to keep updated, the ABC7 Los Angeles app. And don't forget to sign up for the push alerts as well. You might be in an area that will be affected by these fires. You might need to have somebody go evacuate your home. You want to be updated.
Right.
You want to stay updated.
And we have watched this morning for several hours as many homes have gone up in flames. Mark Cota-Robles is live in a neighborhood in Ventura where homes are on fire this morning, and he has watched it firsthand. Mark.
Yeah, Leslie, we are just one street over from where we were for a majority of the morning. So it's a new neighborhood just off of Foothill Road and Highway 126. You can see how thick the smoke is behind us. You really feel for the firefighters for being in the middle of this for now hours on end. And this is a situation where we also need to be safe and play it smart, because that is far too smoky for us to go any further in. For the people who are watching the evacuees, because we know so many people got out in time, the roads that we're at, via Baja and via Ondulando is where we are standing, again, just off of Foothill Road. This home up here to the right, among those that is a complete loss. That home is gone. You can see some smoke billowing up behind, and we can only assume several more here on Via Ondulando that are a complete loss. It was a similar scene over off of High Point Drive as we were making our way out of that neighborhood. Dozens of homes, one after the other, completely destroyed by this rapidly growing Thomas fire. And of course, still windy out here this morning. And as Leslie Lopez has been mentioning, we're not expecting that wind to go anywhere near. We want to make sure we steer clear of the firefighters who are still making their way through the neighborhood. Santa Barbara County here, and one of the engines from LA County as well, and CAL FIRE working to get more hose lined from the fire hydrants here in the neighborhood. But pretty amazing that you have some homes still standing, others gone. Just down the way from here, there's one man on his roof right now with a hose working to wet things down and to prevent his home from catching fire. And this is via Baja that we're walking on right now. Some people who were told to evacuate deciding to stay, and now I have a visual on that homeowner who's up here on his roof. Firefighters now surrounding his home as well. He's getting help from Oxnard firefighters. You can see him there on his roof. So a pretty dramatic scene, incredibly smoky out here, and it remains windy. And that's going to be part of the difficult fight for fire crews as we move forward and as this fire continues to grow. Philip and Leslie.
Well, it's you know, Mark, we were talking with Josh a little bit ago. You saw fire crews dousing a home, and then they still couldn't make any progress. And then you see a guy with a water hose on the roof. I mean, I know that as a homeowner, you think you've got to do something, but do firefighters believe he's actually helping at all? I mean, at some point, this fight has been futile for the experts.
It's a good question, and you see now he just got off the roof. When we were standing in front of this home not just 5 minutes ago, there were no firefighters here. He was alone. And now in those last 5 minutes, Oxnard firefighters have now laid some hose, and are looking to assist him, it looks like. And he's grabbing some water after doing what he could up there on his roof. You know, it's a situation where there's only so many firefighters, and they're moving around as best as they can, going from one street to the next, looking to protect the homes that they can. I'm looking down here on Via Baja. I see another resident further down on their roof as well. So unclear what these people are being told, as we may see a water drop right here with a Ventura County helicopter. There it is, a water drop right onto this man's backyard. With many of these water drops, we haven't seen the helicopters get too low, and that may be because of the wind. You know, we didn't see the helicopters back in the air until well after, or at least around 7 a.m. When we arrived around 4 this morning, there were no helicopters. There was no air attack because, A, the night vision, but more importantly, because of the winds that we were facing. It was simply just too dangerous to get those helicopters up, to do the water drops, and to do the fire retardant drops with that material known as a Phos-Check. So a developing situation. There's that homeowner again. He's grabbing a mask, and that's a good idea because it's just so smoky out here as the fire continues to burn. Philip and Leslie.
You know, as a homeowner, you see the man on the roof, and it looks like there's really nothing he can do in all this. But as a homeowner,
do what you can.
You do what you can. You figure, before I leave here, let me just wet my roof, and you never know. It can help, and it can save your home. You just have to take that last step and do what you can. So he's doing what he can as homes around him are crumbling from this massive fire, and we are seeing learning more information as the sun is up. What are you seeing there, Phil?
Well, off in the distance, Mark, it looks like that's something.
Yeah, going up in flames.
You said you're a street or two over. Was the fire burning in your direction from where you were an hour or so ago to where you are now? So is that homeowner in the line of where the fire was burning in the direction?
Yeah, I mean, this entire stretch of neighborhood is all just north of Foothill Road. And so this is just one drive further west of that, closer to downtown Ventura. And you were talking about the evacuations. Of course, these are mandatory evacuations, but we've seen this before, is that firefighters can tell people to leave, but they cannot force them to leave. And so as proof is here, you know, some people do decide to stay and they grab their garden hoses, and we see them on the rooftops. That's something we have seen before, and that's the message that we get from firefighters. They ask you to leave, they want you to leave, but of course it's up to you to do so.
Yes. And as we see, a lot of people have left. Thousands of people have been evacuated, and they did leave. And it was important that they did so. We can see this man still on the roof there with a little fire hose trying to save what he can. It's just so sad to see. But fortunately, the firefighters are in the area. They are allowing him to do that. So it may be that he is able to save his home. But as we know, 150 homes and outbuildings have been lost, and that number is expected to increase when they are able to get a look and survey the damage in the area.
Yeah, one of the things they were going to do throughout the day, it is a task of theirs. They're going to try to repopulate the area as they can to allow people to get back in and see. We heard from fire officials top of the hour at 8 o'clock in Ventura County, said that, you know, some people who evacuated have no idea what they're going to be able to return to. Throughout the day, as we bring Leslie Lopez in, throughout the day, the biggest concern is going to be the city of Ventura, Santa Paula, and actually Upper Ojai. So this is such a wide area. That's the Thomas Fire only. That's just the Thomas Fire, Leslie. You were talking about the temperatures and the wind and the humidity. At the Creek Fire that's so bad in Cagle Canyon.
Right, you know, really the two biggest components to these two fires will be the winds and then also the humidity levels. The temperatures, well, they're not too bad today. I mean, we're looking at a cool Santa Ana. This isn't a hot Santa Ana, but when we talk about cool Santa Anas in the months of December and January, typically we get the strongest winds associated with Santa Ana conditions. And so here we are in the month of December and January with the ingredients to provide us with those very strong gusty winds. This is what it looks like from our Burbank camera looking out towards the, looks like the Cagle Fire over into that community, that Creek Fire, 59 degrees. It's a cool morning. We're not looking at excessively hot temperatures, but we are looking at some very strong winds. Our live mega Doppler 7000 HD. I'm taking you now to the Thomas Fire, and you can see how big of a plume of smoke it is, extending all the way out to the coastline. Smoke seen all the way out towards areas of Malibu. We're also noticing winds through Ventura. We've been clocking winds about 36, 38 miles per hour at times, and that's sustained winds. Gusts are exceeding 60 miles per hour in some of those locations where the fire is burning. And of course, the big concern is how are firefighters supposed to get ahead of the nose of that fire when the fire is traveling at such a rapid rate and extending embers throughout the communities about a mile or two away. Those are the biggest concerns that we're seeing here with these winds. The winds also very strong in velocity through that area. We're talking about the Cagle Canyon Fire. That's also known as a Creek Fire. This fire, the wind velocity is anywhere from 36 to 43 miles per hour. That's sustained. Again, the gusts are around 69 right now. So that was the latest gust that was clocked just about 30 minutes ago through this area. So very strong gusty winds are going to continue for us. Unfortunately, I don't have good news in terms of the forecasting of the winds. Typically, we do see Santa Ana's let up for a period and then they start to fire off again. Well, this looks like it's going to be very consistent for most of the day. We do have a tiny little lull between 2 and 4 o'clock today, but I mean, it's not much in the way of help for firefighters at all. And then another burst of very strong winds blast through the area right about midnight, 11 o'clock tonight to midnight. And unfortunately, extending out to Wednesday night, another burst of strong winds are going to develop. Right now, we are seeing through some areas, I mean, it's not just Ventura. It's not just the San Fernando Valley that's dealing with very strong gusty winds. Burbank, you're at 22 mile per hour winds right now. We're seeing 37 mile per hour winds in Ontario, so even stronger winds through this area, 20 in Corona, 17 in San Bernardino. Fontana, you're in there as well. Chino Airport, you're in there as well. These winds are going to continue for us, and I just want to give you this very quick outlook. 38 mile per hour sustained winds now. We go down to 25 at 8 p.m. only to pick up again at 11 p.m. It's not much help. I mean, these are still very strong winds. Even though we go down to 25, it's just not much of a help for firefighters. Guys, over to you.
All right, Leslie, thank you very much for that. And Eyewitness News reporter Josh Haskell, he has been in the middle of it, an intense firefight on this street, and homes damaged and destroyed, residents coming home to see that they have nothing left. Josh, what do you have?
Leslie, things are a little bit better here as it looks like firefighters have gotten a handle on that one house that was fully engulfed. And then here to the left, you're seeing a picture of them trying to stop those flames from spreading to more homes. The homes in this neighborhood very, very close to each other. I want to bring in Enrique Uribe, who lives in this area. And Enrique, you're just 2 doors down from this particular house. Tell us what this morning's been like. I understand that you have been helping your neighbors stop the flames.
Yes, sir. We figured if that house burns, ours will probably burn. So we just grabbed our hoses and started watering everything we could. And then when the fire was in the bag, we just tried turning it off. We did our best we could. We did. I think we saved our house and my neighbors and probably the one down the road and the next one.
And at this point, it looks like just these 2 homes on this side of the street. Yours will be okay as the wind has died down a little bit in this particular neighborhood.
Yes, completely. I don't feel any. It was really windy. It was crazy windy. It was really, really windy this morning.
And tell us, you guys are really close in this neighborhood. All the neighbors have been coming out and hugging. And just tell us what made you, instead of right now starting at your house, you just jumped to your neighbor's house who were in worse shape than you.
Well, you know what? Again, I figured if his burns, mine burns, and they're all gonna probably burn. So we were all on the roof, all with hoses, trying to turn it off.
Just to give our viewers an idea of how strong the wind was, look up on the hillside there. That's where the fire started, but you can see the homes below the hill. They're still standing. The wind blew those embers from that hillside to these 2 homes across the street. Have you ever seen anything like this, Enrique?
Sir, no way, nothing like it ever. I got some cool video I can shoot you guys if you want that.
And right now, we're going to send it back to you guys as we're in this neighborhood, and we're going to stay here for now.
Okay. Josh, thank you. I want to pass along a quick word. This is from the LAPD. The fire department, LAFD, is in the midst of a rescue operation for a dozer operator in distress after a rollover. We've talked about with the Thomas fire, there was 1 injury. That firefighter had been treated, released. The firefighter is said to not be trapped and is conscious, alert, and talking with rescuers. So shows the danger of everything going on here.
Right now, let's go to Brandy Hidd. She is live on a street. What is going on there, Brandy?
Leslie and Philip, we have another home that's burned. Look behind me. Sorry, sir. These guys have been working around the clock saying that this has been burning in this area for hours on end. This is Island View at Hilltop, and these firefighters right now are simply trying to make sure you don't go in too far there, Brian. Just trying to make sure that they can put this house out the best they can, because the embers they're worried are going to go beyond this home and down into the next house below it. If you turn around here with Brian Dunn, my photographer, I've got here the Ventura County Battalion Chief, Mike Weisenberg, with me. He's been working nonstop around the clock. Sir, you've also had some water issues that you guys have been dealing with and battling this fire in this particular neighborhood.
Yes, absolutely. The water has gone down, so we're utilizing what we have, making sure we protect the structures that we can, keeping the ember wash down, protect the structures downwind. And like you can see, the men and women out here doing a fantastic job. We're getting the people out of the way, making sure they're safe. That's our first priority. Second is making sure that these fires don't spread.
Well, the wind is whipping like crazy still, and I look up at this hill and I see the homes that have burned and some haven't. Are the embers pretty much coming down this way and then onto this house below here?
You know, the fire's been spread out. I couldn't tell you exactly if that's what caught this house on fire, but like I said, we're being very aggressive. We're making sure that we get in front of this fire as best that we can. You know, obviously Mother Nature has given us a little bit of a battle, but they've been putting their heart and soul into this. So.
And I look down the street even, and you've got that home that's probably a loss. At some point, you have to decide we need to let these homes go. What tends to be that decision where you've got to focus on saving more of the neighborhood and letting the houses go?
Absolutely. As you can see, there's 50, 60 homes on this block, and right now we have fire apparatus is at a premium. So we size up, we do the most good for the most amount of homes that we can, and sometimes that is when we get on scene, if the attic is fully involved, if it's just a total loss, we have to go on and not focus on the one one house. We got to make sure the exposures on either side do not light off.
How do you compare this to the other fires you fought in your career? Like, how does this one rank right now? Because this has been so unpredictable.
Premium right now, so we're not going to get any relief. They do have people coming, but like I said, we can't take a break till we get ahead of this thing.
Thank you for your time, Battalion Chief.
welcome.
Really appreciate it. Good luck with everything, sir. Thank you. And our camera right now looking at them, putting as much water as they can on this home, a total loss. But the big focus, of course, is trying to douse this, Philip and Leslie, as much as possible, because it just takes one strong ember. We've been seeing it all morning long, one strong ember to fly from that rooftop and go to the other side. And we're being told we have to get back for safety.
He's got flammables.
Oh, we just learned we've got flammables in the garage, so we're going to go ahead and get out of the scene.
Thanks, Brandy. Thanks very much for that. We're going to go to a news conference
There was
right
a unified
now.
response.
Let's listen in.
The Los Angeles City Fire Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, as well as the U.S. Forest Service responded. At this point in time, the fire's grown to over 4,000 acres, and it's still growing, as you can see with the wind gusts that are currently facing us here, approximately a couple miles away from the fire. You can only imagine the impact this weather is having on the flaming front. LA County resources are committed. We have over 400 firefighters. We have over 50 fire engines assisting within the communities. There have been numerous structures threatened with reports of structures on fire, and specifically for LA County, that's within the Cagle Canyon and Lopez Canyon communities. Currently, there are about approximately 2,500 homes that have been evacuated, and my partners here from the City of Los Angeles will provide more detail about evacuations. That's all we have at this point in time, is just to mention that the fact we have this fire and the devastating fire in Ventura County is definitely tapped the resources throughout the region, but we're continuing to bring in additional resources to help us combat this fire. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have LA City Fire Deputy Chief Trevor Richmond is Commander of Operations Valley Bureau.
Good morning. As Chief Richardson stated, right now we're in a unified command posture with LA County Fire Department, Angeles National Forest, Los Angeles Police Department, and the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department. Presently, right now, our evacuation centers are as follows: Sylmar Recreation Center, Sunland Senior Center. All small animals can be evacuated to those centers. Large animal evacuation will be at Pierce College, LA Pierce College in Woodland Hills. As previously stated by Chief Richardson, yes, we have had a number of homes damaged. We're uncertain right now at the locations. We're actively involved in aggressively protecting homes in the Sylmar area. I understand throughout the rest of the day, we will begin to build up our command structure. We're ordering additional resources as we speak. They're en route to this location at this time. One message that I would like to communicate to the community is, if you're asked to evacuate, please evacuate immediately. Remember the moniker, ready, set, go. Be ready, be set, and leave when you're asked to leave. That concludes my brief.
We've got LAPD Deputy Chief John Sherman from their Valley Bureau.
Good morning. The Los Angeles Police Department has approximately 200 officers deployed to this incident right now. The police department is overseeing the evacuation side of it, working with the fire department. Presently, the areas that we have evacuated are north of the 210 freeway. On the east side is the Little Tujunga Canyon, and on the west side, where Telfair runs into a big wash, and that area going up. So that large area north of the 210 is what we are considering a mandatory evacuation area. Anything west of that Telfair area over to the 514 interchange, that's voluntary evacuation. All of that above the 210 freeway. As you know, many homes and residences in that area. As Chief Richmond said, if you are told to evacuate, the request is please evacuate out of the area as quick as possible. The Right now, the 210 freeway is open. It's safe to travel on. We're going to try to keep that open to allow for easier egress for the people to get out of the area and ingress for the emergency personnel. The LAPD has about 200 people working on this fire. Our police officers are out there working in tandem in sections with the fire department because it's a very fast-moving fire. That's all the information I have at this point.
What do we have? What do we have as far as?
Hold on one sec, because we're going to have a public information officer of the school police department come up and talk about schools that are affected. Thank you.
Good morning, Sergeant Spry with the LA School Police Department. Currently, we're working with Unified Command with Fire and LAPD and LA Sheriffs, and we want to inform our parents that there's only 3 schools within the LA Unified School District currently affected. Be Hubbard Elementary School at 13325 Hubbard Street, Harding Elementary School at 13060 Harding Street, and Vaughn Early Educational Center at 11480 Herrick Avenue. These students have been evacuated and are told to be taken to San Fernando High School, which is located at 11133 O'Melveny Avenue. There are a handful of charter schools that are independent and affiliated to the LA Unified School District that have also been evacuated. We ask all of our parents to maintain their students at school, and if there are students from Hubbard, Harding, and Vaughn, to have their students go to San Fernando High School. Thank you.
Are those schools going to be closed?
Currently, Hubbard, Harding, and Vaughn Early Educational Center are closed.
Until further notice?
Until further. Their classes will be taken at San Fernando High School. Thank you.
Real quickly, also before questions, we do want to remind everyone in Los Angeles that red flag parking restrictions did take effect this morning at 8 a.m. That includes all of the high fire severity zones, not just in the neighborhoods around here where this fire is happening, but throughout the city of Los Angeles. Please check if you live in the city. You can go onto the web, onto the neighborhood info site. You can check to see if you live in a red flag parking restriction zone. Also, if there are signs in your neighborhood that say you live in a red flag zone, you need to move your vehicles. If they're parked on the side of the street with those signs, they will be towed. This restriction is in effect citywide until 8 a.m. tomorrow. We will evaluate this afternoon whether or not that restriction, the parking restriction citywide, will be extended past 8 a.m. tomorrow. So right now we'll take some questions. After that, we do have Spanish available. Questions?
What about aircraft? What about water dropping aircraft? Can we talk about that? I know you guys talked about engines, firefighters. What do we have in terms, especially with the wind?
Okay, on this particular fire, we do have aircraft that were working initially early this morning. You can tell the winds have picked up. We're five hours plus into this firefight. The winds, high wind speeds that we're experiencing impact the operation of our helicopters, our rotorcraft, as well as the super scoopers. Again, keeping in mind, we want to provide a safe operation for our pilots and for those on the ground, and keeping in mind that weather is going to dictate how and when we're able to utilize the aircraft.
So are they in the air now?
We do have some rotor wing in the aircraft providing support.
How much more difficult does that make your job in trying to get a handle on this?
Extremely difficult. The fact of the matter is, you know, it's what this wind is what's being dealt to us at this point in time. It makes things very much difficult because we're chasing the fire. We're chasing the fire, trying to get out ahead of it, trying to get in front to provide structured defense. But number one, trying to inform people to get them out in a timely manner before that fire does in fact arrive.
What's the is that north 210, the area that's under mandatory evacuation, the area that is of most concern to you guys right now?
Yes. So yeah, north of the 210 right now, if you could picture a box between Little Tujunga Canyon, the 5 freeway, north of the 210, all the front country, north of the 118, that's our area of concern. As we have the homes that are built into the wildland urban interface, those are obviously the first homes that are going to be impacted by the open perimeter of the fire. So that's our biggest area of concern. We do have some unconfirmed reports at this point of one firefighter that was hurt. We're still gathering information at this time.
What about hospitals? Are they taking on more patients? I heard there was a possibility maybe more sheltering in place and not taking people there.
I don't have any information on that.
Sorry, what was the number of structure damage?
So we don't have a number of structures damaged. We do have confirmed damage. We don't have a number yet. There are a variety of structures in different jurisdictions, LA County and LA City, that we have received reports that we do have some damage, but unconfirmed at this point.
And the next update. Next update. The next update.
Next update.
The next update will be around 10 o'clock, maybe a little bit after 10. For those of you who need Spanish, we can have a Spanish speaker up right now.
I'm sorry, the firefighter's injury has to do with smoke inhalation?
We don't know at this point.
Okay.
And sorry, one more quick comment from the county.
One more in regards to hospitals. Keep in mind, all of you Medical Center, they are sheltering in place at this point in time at the hospital. There's no need to evacuate, as well as Holy Cross. The preferred hospital at this point in time, if people need to go to the hospital, is that of Holy Cross for access, and again, it's away from the fire.
And both of them are sheltering in place?
That's correct.
And that's Olive View?
Olive View, O-L-I-V-E.
Anything else? So we'll do Spanish right now, otherwise we'll be back a little bit after 10 o'clock for the next update. Thank you very much. Spanish.
What was your name, sir?
Trevor.
En español para los padres del distrito, en español.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have just received an update from the Creek Fire, which is burning out of control. As you can see there, Air 7 HD and Sky Map 7, you can see where it is burning, and all of those homes that are, some burning to the ground, others in danger of burning. We do know that this has burned 4,000 acres so far, and firefighters were just expressing the challenges that they are dealing with. These winds that are picking up. They do have aircraft hitting the fire and trying to douse the flames, but acknowledging though that they are chasing this fire. You know, they are in defensive mode. They are not in an offensive mode, and they are trying to douse these flames. Also, they have the challenge of informing people that they need to evacuate. So it is a very fluid situation, and the good news though is that the sun is up and they can begin their air assault. But this has been going on since 3:42 in the morning, Philip.
Well, that's the thing to remember, that this fire started at about 100 acres, 50 to 100 acres or so at 3:42 in the morning. No known cause for what it started, but then it exploded. And the wind conditions in this area were significant. Even as we were focused on the Thomas fire, Leslie Lopez, all of the parties involved were really concerned about Sylmar, and it just began to explode. So it started very small at 3:42 this morning, and as you mentioned, it has exploded to some 4,000 acres at this point. Right now, they do not have a number of structures burned to give to us. We've seen structures burned, though. We've seen people's homes burned. They have some 400 firefighters on hand with 50 engines or so, but they're just trying to find a way to get ahead of a fire that's really got no direction. It's all over the place because of the fire, the wind. You can see that little spot fire right there in your screen from Air 7 HD. You can see that's what they're fighting. So they tried to get to these locations, but it's so difficult to fight this fire. It is now 9 o'clock in the morning. We've been covering these two fires for some 5 hours now. This is our live team coverage. We are breaking into regularly scheduled programming here at 9 a.m. I'm Philip Palmer, along with Leslie Sykes.
Yes, and as Philip mentioned, those two massive fires, they are burning out of control in Southern California, and we have reporters at both scenes. We are tracking the Thomas fire in Ventura County and the Creek fire in the San Fernando Valley. As you just heard the update there from authorities, this is a live look at the Creek fire from Air 7 HD. Here is what we know so far. The Creek fire has grown to 4,000 acres. It is 0% contained. It is burning in the area of Sylmar. There are mandatory evacuation orders in place. Let's go right to JT Alpa on Air 7 HD. He is over that fire right now. JT.
Yeah, you can see a home burning here right near Via San Diego and Via Santa Barbara. It is covered by smoke right now, but look at all that wind blowing that fire. Wind driven for sure, right off the mountaintop. all that smoke laying down to the left. You can see 20, 30, maybe even 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts down in that area. You can see that that smoke is pushing those flames and embers into the neighborhood. We're going to use Sky Map 7 to give you an idea of this neighborhood and where it is that you should be aware of. If you live in this area, know people live in this area, you definitely want to get out of the area. This is up near Gavina, right north of Gavina, right up against the hillside, north of the 210 freeway. You can see that the fire all the way through here and even down in this area, right off the street via Santiago and via Ricardo. Look at that fire burning in that brush, taking out a car right now, right up against these homes. This is extremely dangerous. Fire protection, another house just starting up right there at Via Santiago and Via San Pablo. We're going to turn right into the wind again, try to get a little steeper and a little closer, but you can see it's just indiscriminately taking home by home here in this area, in the Sylmar area, north of the 210 freeway. And we're getting covered by smoke, but we're going to try to give you a wide look here of the neighborhood to give you an idea with Sky Map 7 where exactly is. It is very near the area here off of Maclay, off of Hubbard, Simshaw, in that area there, right up against the hillside. Coming from the right, out of the winds out of the northeast, coming off this hillside here. But look at these homes down here, Philip and Leslie. All these are in danger right up against the hillside. There's just not enough structure protection or engines or firefighters to get in here and protect every home. They're trying to get to as many as they can, but fire ravaging this neighborhood down in the Sylmar area, or we're watching it take home by home.
Well, plus the vastness of what we're talking about and how crowded this area is, you can't possibly stay in front of something that doesn't really have a fire line. JT, you've seen as you flew up to this, what are you noticing as far as the commute in there? I mean, are people already gone? Are they still trying to get out? What are you noticing as you fly above this?
Well, we're looking here down on Tibbet Street. We're not seeing a lot of vehicular traffic right now. There's some right there on Tibbetts and Gavina, some people trying to pack up and get out, but not seeing a lot of traffic, not a traffic jam. There is some structure protection sporadically through this neighborhood, but not a lot of traffic, if you will, or a gridlock getting in and out of here. But we're going to try to move to the south if we can, Zeus, because we're getting a little too far north. But north of the 210 here, we're going to try to give you a better look here because it is obscured by smoke. We're going to come wide here, Philip, and give you the Sky Map 7 satellite imaging to give you an idea where this is. North of the 210 freeway, there's the 118 and the 210, so this is north and east, and it's pushing down into these neighborhoods right to the west of Gavina, north of Tibbetts, right in this area here. This is immediate structure protection in place right now. Many homes going. We're going to come back out and show you what we can't see through, and that's that smoke. We're going to try to get a better position here in Air 7 HD to show you. But all this area right now, where you see smoke, you can be assured there's lots of embers in there threatening homes. We'll throw it back to you guys.
Okay, JT, thank you very much. And you can see that this area, it's so heavily populated. I mean, there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of homes in this area. What are you seeing as far as air support, choppers, fixed wing possibly in the air now?
I'm sorry, Leslie, got covered by another radio. We did see LA City Fire helicopter in Augusta Westland 139 in the area circling above these homes. I think they're really just trying to spot out what homes may be immediately threatened, but you can see how low this smoke is hugging the ground, coming off the mountain and just really getting down into these neighborhoods. We are up at 11,000 feet, so difficult just for us to see under the smoke. We can see through it, but the firefighters down on the ground, they really can't get down there because the smoke is laying right against the ground because of these 30, 40 mile an hour gusts coming off that mountain. You can see some of that vehicular traffic. Trying to turn right here just a little bit to go a little bit further to the south to see if we can't see some of these homes burning and try to pick up that fire helicopter. But all these areas through here under the smoke, especially this area here that we really can't see under, we'll go to Sky Map 7 satellite again and show you all these areas near Simshaw, and that is Aztec Street, coming down Shablo Avenue, all these right up against the hillside in immediate danger from the fire.
Okay. JT, thanks. So that's JT from above the creek fire. Let's go to the ground level. Carlos Granda is standing by. Carlos, we hope we don't see more homes burn, but that I think is simply a hope.
Absolutely, because we're going to show you a home that's burning right now. Let me give you an idea right now what's happening. Here you see the firefighters behind me. They're having to take out this tree from the road. It's been blocking them, blocking some of their access into this area. It is very windy. We've been getting hit by gusts here
all morning. And let me show you what's going on. This is the corner of Gavina and Via Santa Barbara. And there you see a home right at the corner, and there is smoke coming out from inside that home. So that home, it is burning inside. You see firefighters around it. They're doing the best they can to try to save it. But as JT Alpa said, look at the wind. You can see it now. They can barely keep up with this because it is blowing so fast. There are a lot of firefighters here on Via Santa Barbara trying to save these homes. Right now we're getting hit by a gust, and it is very powerful out here. But again, they're having a very difficult time just keeping up with this fire. They're in there now. They have hand crews around this area trying to do structure protection. But again, very difficult because you can see the smoke. You can see the helicopter right there just trying to do drops, doing whatever it can to try to save these homes. But again, very difficult because of the incredible winds pushing these the smoke, the embers, everything flying through the air. You can see them. They're just getting here, just doing everything they can to try to save these homes. Hold on, there's a fire truck going by here. Let me get you this picture. But again, they're trying to converge on this area, trying to save these homes. You can see the fence around this home. It has been knocked down in just the last few minutes because we've been getting these wind gusts, and they keep pushing all the embers in every direction. And that's what firefighters are having a big trouble because they have the embers flying in every direction. They're trying to protect all of these homes. But again, you can see it is very difficult. They just cannot even keep up with the strong winds, the strong flames that are being fanned because of this wind.
It appears to be such an acute situation, Carlos. We see a chopper in the air, possibly making a drop.
Right.
Yeah, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it just is coming over. I think it's not really dropping right now. I think it was just checking out the situation to tell the crews on the ground where they see the flames moving, which houses they should go to, which they should prioritize to try to stop this from moving. But again, the wind is so strong. When I was coming here, it really reminded me of a hurricane. The wind is just going horizontally. You can see the wind, the smoke, the embers just flying across where you can almost have difficulty standing up. That's how strong these winds are.
Well, Carlos, we've talked about firefighters dealing with access in many circumstances. They can't get to this fire because of the way it's spotting and it's blowing all over the place. But I want to go back to the trees that we were watching. There's a drop right there. The trees that you were showing us a moment ago as they were trying to get those trees out of there. Were those because of the wind blowing the trees over? They're not fire related, right? So that's just another added obstacle for firefighters because of the... Okay, Carlos can't hear us. All right, we'll just move on.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, you
now.
can?
I can
Okay.
hear you now.
So those trees aren't necessarily fire related. That's wind related and an added obstacle as firefighters are trying to gain access to this firefight.
Absolutely. Right over here, this wind is right on the hillside, and it was knocked down by the wind and was blocking most of the street. So fire trucks did have some difficulty getting through. That's why these hand crews showed up here, and they were told to clear that tree out, get it out of the roadway so they can get the vehicles through. Now, and over here on this other house, I saw the residents just a short while ago pouring water outside, pouring water on their plants all around the house, trying to do whatever they can to try to save this house. The concern, of course, is because the embers are flying in every direction. And again, we'll show you the house here at the corner, right at Via Santa Barbara and Gavina. There is black smoke pouring out of the inside of the home. So obviously there's burning inside that home. Firefighters are doing their best to try to save some of the homes on this street. But again, they do know that they're going to lose. They just have no way to keep up with this fast-moving fire.
Mother Nature is in control. Carlos, thank you very much for that. As you remain there and gather all the information from there, let's go to JT Alpa. He is over. Okay, we are over the wildlife Waystation, and as you can see, you have active fire in that area. The wildlife Waystation, they house exotic animals, and they are in the process of trying to evacuate some 120 of those exotic animals. That includes tigers and lions and all sorts of wild animals there. So they are trying to evacuate. Meanwhile, this fire is in that area burning out of control. You can see see the smoke coming up, and beyond that, below that, active flame in that area. So we are waiting to get more information about how those animals are going to be evacuated, but that is certainly a challenging situation with the type of animals they have there.
And they're also working to get a firefighter to safety whose bulldozer had overturned in a remote area near Riverwood Drive. That's in the Tujunga Sunland area. Again, we're talking about the Creek Fire right now, but you have the Thomas and the Creek Fire, the Thomas Fire in Ventura County. That one has burned over 45,000 acres. And the Creek Fire right now is sadly just starting to build its strength because it started early this morning around 3:42 this morning. We want to check in with Veronica Miracle. She is also on the ground. She is watching the Creek Fire, which right now seems to have the most intense winds and the most spotting of the fire.
Yeah, that's right, Philip. We're not far from Carlos, but what a difference just a few feet can make. It's really hard to tell how many homes have burned because there's so much smoke. I was talking to a firefighter who said, honestly, I don't know. The situation is so dire that they're just going to houses that they can. You can hear the sound of fire alarms kind of in the distance, but obviously that's just a hopeless lost cause. I have seen at least 2 houses burned to the ground, but you're seeing a mixture of black and white smoke. Typically that white smoke means that brush is burning, but that black smoke means property is burning, and it's a mixture because the ridge behind these homes is burning as well as inside the properties. One of the biggest struggles, at least in this neighborhood here in Santiago Estates, firefighters say, is the water pressure. They tell me that there's just not enough water, and I saw a neighbor trying to use his hose and the water was just trickling out slowly. So the lack of water compounded with the winds, and then of course that fire burning in some houses and obviously in the brush. We're walking just down the street, and this is a house that appears to be continually burning from the inside out. Firefighters have been, if you can see down this way, they've been putting water along the side of the home. They've been ripping out some of the wood siding so that they can get underneath the property where I'm assuming that it's burning, as we are seeing smoke come out of here. Black smoke there in the back coming out of the house, and firefighters are monitoring the situation, but for some of these properties there's not much more they can do besides try and air out the property, put some water inside, and then move on to protect the next house. The sun is out. The smoke is clearing a little bit right now, and it really just varies from minute to minute. Sometimes we're just getting blasted with a wave of smoke and you can't see anything, and then at times it's clearing like this. It appears that the wind has died down, but really the conditions here making it so hard to breathe. I have to stop every now and then just to close my eyes. I saw some firefighters dousing their eyes with water, making it very difficult to work in these conditions. Leslie and Philip.
Veronica, thank you very much for that. Stay safe. She is at the Creek Fire, which is 4,000 acres so far. It seems hopeless at this point, but we do know that California firefighters, they are the best, and they know how to deal with this. So it's challenging because the winds are so gusty, but they are on both fires. We have the Creek Fire, which started at 3:42 this morning. We also have the Thomas Fire, which has been burning since 6 p.m. yesterday. That fire, at least 150 homes or structures damaged. We are expecting that number to increase, and 45,000 acres so far. Mark Cota-Robles in the midst of that fire on the ground. Mark, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Leslie, this remains to be, for us at least, our location, the fire in Ventura, the Thomas Fire, just off of Foothill Road. This home behind us looks maybe deceiving. The back end of it is gone. You can see some of the flames coming up from the roof of this building. Ventura County and LA County firefighters, they just pulled out of this location. They put up a heck of a fight trying to save this home. Part of it was on fire. Then they realized that it just couldn't be saved. It's completely gone from the back end is what they told us. They were able to attempt to save this vintage Mustang, moving it back in the driveway just a bit. But they figured there was nothing more they could do with this structure, and so they just pulled out to work elsewhere. Perhaps reiterating my location, this is Via Arroyo at Nob Hill Lane, again in Ventura. This is on the east side of Ventura, far from Santa Paula where the fire started, also far from downtown Ventura where we saw a lot of the damage as well. So it's just such a wide swath of burned properties because of this Thomas fire. Right here, perhaps through the smoke, you can see the neighboring home is a complete loss. When we arrived roughly 30 minutes ago to this location, it was already gone and it continues burning. There's only so much these firefighters can do with the winds that continue gusting up here in Ventura. We still do see helicopters from time to time making water drops, moving through the area, but there's so much land to cover that I think they're dealing with the resources and trying to hit and protect what structures they can. When they realize they can't save a property, they've moved on. So Philip and Leslie, we will keep you posted, of course. Again, this is the Nob Hill Estates neighborhood just off of Foothill Road, off of Highway 126 in East Ventura. Very sad to see and heartbreaking when you see things like the holiday Christmas decorations up on this home. This is just about the worst thing you could imagine here a few weeks before Christmas. Back to you both.
All right.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you. And we've seen so many homes already burned. Another issue they're having to deal with is, in some instances, they don't have water because of power outages that they need to pump the water, the pumping stations. Let's go to Scott Rive. He's in Air 7 HD above the Thomas fire. It's hard to imagine the size of this, Scott.
It really is. It's hard to fathom 45,000 acres, and that's since 6:23 yesterday when it started in Santa Paula. Now, this is just to the west side of Foothill, right about Sexton Canyon Road. Now, earlier this morning, we could actually see more of an area into some of the canyons where the homes were lost. But there you go. We see another home fully engulfed in flames, and you can see how difficult it is to stop this fire with the winds that we have. They've died down a little bit since I was here early this morning. The early morning hours, we had more gusty winds. Right now, it's just prevailing out of the north. It seems like about 30 to 40 miles an hour, but that's enough to make it unpredictable and also enough to make it nearly impossible to stop. It's a 14-mile fire line. Just for a moment there, yeah, push into that one, Trace. You can see everywhere we look, unfortunately, this is what we are seeing. Not a lot of structure protection. Resources are spread thin. They can't save all the homes, and then as we look down some of these lines, one home's been fully engulfed or destroyed. Another one now fully engulfed. I want to come out of this shot and pan to the right just to give you a little perspective. A 14-mile line of fire is a long, long line. Now, that basically what we showed you would be the south end. We're panning to the right, which is basically to the northeast, but that's part of Santa Paula, you'll see. In that smoke, we saw dozens and dozens of homes destroyed early this morning. But just look how long this line is. We're going to keep going to the right. Wow. That's the origin of the fire, way up there in Santa Paula. Started at 6:23 yesterday. As we start to come back down, I want to let you know the 126 is open. A portion of Telegraph is shut down, and Foothill is shut down. But that's Foothill that runs right along the foothills there. Inside the smoke, hundreds of homes have been lost. That's our count, or at least that's what we believe at this point in time from what we've seen. And now as we continue to the right, we're headed down into Ventura, and they're trying to save the homes in Ventura. Trace, there's a hot spot right there. Usually when we see that thick black smoke, it's because a structure has gone up. And look at all of the homes in that area. Some have already burned right down to the foundation. Others are on fire. So, you know, it is just sad. So many people are losing their homes. They've had a lot of time to get the evacuation orders in effect. They knew this was coming, so I think for the most part, people are out. But you can just tell from this shot what they're looking at. You can also tell we haven't seen a helicopter drop in here. Not that they're not doing that, but it's just there may be other areas that need it worse, and we can't see those areas because of the smoke. Pull out of the shot for just a moment, Trace, just straight open, and we'll show you that plume of black smoke right to the top of your screen. That gives you an idea how hot, tilt up a little bit, how hot and intense it is. That plume up right there gives you an idea what we can't see in the smoke. is raging. Now, a lot of that is brush, but I want to come back down to the area we're really concerned about. That is right along that smoke line. We can't see the homes, but, you know, from what we can tell, it is just so devastating. We saw canyons in which they lost what appeared to be 40 or 50 homes in one canyon. Now we're seeing this fire move into another area, some larger homes, and not enough structure protection to protect them.
Scott, we do believe that the people in this immediate area have evacuated.
We certainly do. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but what I do know is that evacuation orders were in effect very early this morning. We were up here at 4 a.m. We were overhead on the fire at 4 a.m., and by that time they knew it was coming. So I'm assuming that they had everybody out. Now, these homes wouldn't be too difficult to evacuate if you pull out the bottom of your screen as telegraphed. There were other homes, though, that were up in canyons that were a little more difficult. We think they got out of there, but, boy, those are some rather large, almost estate-style homes up in that hillside off Sexton Canyon, just to the west side of Foothill. And there are so many more that we can't see. It's just devastating. It looks a lot like the Malibu fire. You know, when that fire went through Malibu in '93, we had the big one in Laguna in '93 in November, or October. Then the first part of November, we had 268 homes lost in Malibu. Those took forever to rebuild because it's so hard with the zoning in Malibu. And you could fly over and see 4 or 5 houses that were lost. The one next to it didn't burn. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. You know, it's almost a matter of chance or a matter of fate, if you will. Some of the homes are lost. Some of them are saved, even though we have a lot of flame and fire moving through this area. And that's what we're going to be looking at, a similar type situation here. But it's just devastating. It's so sad. It's heartbreaking. You really feel for the folks who live in this area and for who have homes that are being lost. It's just got to be so tough.
Well, Scott, you know, you bring up the Malibu fires. I mean, those eventually didn't stop, in a sense, until they got to the ocean. How far away from the ocean are we here? Not that this is a straight-out fire line like you might see in the forest or something, but spotting fires, how far away till it can finally go no further?
Yeah, here's the shot. You will see the ocean off to the left. Now, it gets a little easier to protect down in here than it did in Malibu, because what you're seeing down in here is an area that is fully developed. In Malibu, you had a lot of homes that were nestled up into the canyon. Once you get down into flatland, and that's downtown Ventura. Stay there for a second, Tracy. That's the 101 freeway. Now, the 101 freeway is still open. If that gets shut down, boy, that's a major thoroughfare, and we know how bad that will be for traffic. In the meantime, it's open, but that's just black smoke. We don't see any flames in that area yet, but as we pan to the right there in the center of your screen is where the hillside comes down. That's going to be very difficult to defend in these types of winds. I think further south towards the ocean, because it's a flat area and because you don't have homes nestled up into a canyon like in Malibu, they'll be able to save those. But everything here north of the 101 is in jeopardy at this point.
And Scott, you mentioned the Malibu fire, and you have seen these fires over the years. Given what we know about the wind conditions and the forecast that we are expecting for the next few days, what do you have confidence in the firefighters' efforts that they're going to be able to get a handle on this, or what do you see?
I have complete confidence in the firefighters' efforts. Unfortunately, no matter how good their effort is, and we know it's exceptional, this is a wind-driven fire. There's not much you can do if you've got 40 to 50 or even 60-mile-an-hour winds. It's just almost impossible to stop this fire, especially when it's in the brush. So it's similar to what we had in Malibu, and even worse was Laguna. You know, in '93, it was the end of October, they lost 400 homes. Now, that area is similar to Malibu, but the fire did not stop for nearly a week, and that's because we just didn't get a break in the winds. And I think it's the same situation here. Firefighters will do everything they can do to save homes and to stop this fire. I don't think they'll be able to stop the fire and save all the homes until the winds die down. And I think Leslie had said, Leslie Lopez, that that's probably sometimes Thursday. So that means all day today, all day tomorrow, we've got to deal with the type of winds that make it nearly impossible to stop a blaze like this.
Well, one of the things, too, that we heard from fire authorities, Scott, was their biggest concern today, because of the winds and because of the nature of this fire. The city of Ventura Santa Paula, which you pointed to a moment ago, and Upper Ojai. Now, as I'm trying to wrap my brain around that geographically, Ojai is significantly, there's a lot of distance between the city of Ventura and Ojai that a fire could burn in there, correct?
It could, but the problem with Ojai is once this fire jumps up and over the hill and comes down towards Ojai, I mean, there's so much brush up there. Those homes are nestled up into the canyons, and this fire is burning now to the south. But if the winds shift a little bit, and they've got a pretty good idea from their forecast what the winds may do, it's pretty much now from, I would say, the northeast to the southwest. If it goes a little bit further west and it jumps over the hillside down into Ojai, you could be trapped. And that's why evacuating Ojai is so important. You know, this area right here, you can get out very easily. You get down to the 126, you can get away from the fire and come to the south. Once you get up over the mountains into Ojai, there's only one way out. You can only go to the south, and a lot of folks could be trapped. So I think when they talk about Ojai, it's precautionary at this point, but it's needed because with these types of winds, you just never know.
As we are over this area and scan these neighborhoods, are you able to see any flare-ups and active flames? I see in the upper left-hand corner perhaps something there. I can barely see the firefighters, but are you able to see active flames and homes going up in flames?
We are. I mean, we'll move around a little bit for you, Leslie. You saw a home there. I'm not sure exactly where you're at, Trace. If you look out your window, I do see a lot of black smoke coming from that one area. You know, sadly, as we move around, we just see more and more spots. Right in there was the black heavy smoke. That's usually an indication that a structure is going up. We just see so many of these spot fires and so many homes going up. We'll pull out a little bit before we push back in just to give you an idea. The reason we don't see more is because of the smoke. You see how thick the smoke is? A lot of the homes that are burning are obscured.
All right. Scott, thank you very much. So that is from Scott's shot there. And again, this is the Thomas fire. He gave us a great perspective of what they're going to be facing. And as you mentioned, Leslie, we've seen these fires spotting and popping up
Trace.
here
That
and
was
there,
great.
little flare-ups. Josh Haskell is in one of the communities that has been really affected by the Thomas fire. We've got reporters everywhere. We want to check in with Josh now as he has an update from the ground in the Thomas fire.
Philip, as our reporters have been saying all morning, it really feels like there is fire on almost every hillside in this area. We actually moved 2 miles west from where we were. I want to step out of the picture right now and show you firefighters are in this backyard right now, and they are just letting this hillside burn. There is a palm tree. We've seen a lot of different types of brush here, and they actually tell me that as you've been reporting, what they're the most worried about is if the wind changes. Right now, they think that they can save these homes. We're in the Springtime Homes neighborhood. It's in the city of Ventura. We are at the intersection of Delaware and Omaha. And I was just talking to a gentleman, Jeff Dawson. He bought his home in April, and he was on the roof. If we've seen so many of those images today, homeowners just on the roof trying to save their home, and we want to walk down the street right now and interview him. Another thing we've seen is Ventura City Police going from door to door to make sure that no one is in these homes. And so far, this home, the one next door, the residents did follow those evacuation orders, and there is nobody home. There's Mr. Dawson right over there. You can see police, and there's just one engine here in this particular neighborhood. Just really, really thick smoke covering this whole area. Jeff. We're going to ask Jeff a question or two. Jeff, you said you just bought your home in April. Thank you, sir. And tell us what you're trying to do right now as you see the flames right there.
I know, it's right here, so if I can just kind of keep the eaves wet, that's the big thing, getting the spark under. So, got to do what I got to do. It's my home.
When you bought your home, did you ever think that this was something you were going to do?
I bought it in April, for crying out loud, so I've only had it for a few months, and it's just devastating, but the firemen are doing such a good job here. So, I feel confident that we're gonna tackle this. They knocked that down really fast. We've got some dead trees up there that I was worried about, so I think we're going to be fine.
And I was talking to one of the firefighters. He said, we believe we can take care of that hillside there and stop the brush from burning. He's just really worried about the wind changing.
Right, absolutely. That's as soon as it starts to change, I see things moving. My butt will be in that car out of town.
Have you been able to pack up at all?
Yeah, well, we evacuated last night at 11 o'clock. They came out for a mandatory evacuation. So we left then, went to some friends. I couldn't sleep, so I got back here about 5 o'clock this morning. It all seemed good. So I go, oh, good, we can come back. So I called my wife, come on here, and then I was out here, and all of a sudden, boom, that hill just came over and lit up. And it's, in a matter of seconds, I've heard this through this whole deal. Geez, in just a few seconds, the flames came over the hill and took over everything.
Thank you for talking to us, Jeff. So we're going to stay here in this neighborhood for now as firefighters try and stop those flames from reaching the backyards of all of these homes here. Again, we're in the city of Ventura Springtime Homes neighborhood. Back to you guys.
Josh, thank you very much for that. You listened to that man, and he bought his house less than a year ago, 8 months ago, and his home is being threatened, and he is trying desperately to save it. We are tracking 2 fires that are burning out of control. The first, the Thomas Fire in Ventura County, and then the Creek Fire in the San Fernando Valley. And here's what we know so far. The Creek Fire has grown to 4,000 acres. It is at 0% containment. It's burning in the area of Sylmar. Officials say there is damage to an unknown number of homes at this point. No reports of any injuries. The good news there, a total of over 650 firefighters are on the scene of this fire right now, and there are mandatory evacuation orders in place. Now, the Thomas Fire in Ventura County is at 45,000 acres. At least 150 structures have been lost. We are expecting that number to increase. Authorities have successfully evacuated over 27,000 people, and there are no confirmed reports of fatalities.
Well, one of the things you'll notice as you drive around town, a lot of people will be affected by this. Commutes are going to be affected because of all of the smoke, and that's not just the Creek Fire, the Thomas Fire. We said the 101's still open, but it's going to be affected. The 134 here in Glendale, people are having to slow down because of the smoke from the Creek Fire. Let's go to Carlos Granda. He is on the ground at the Creek Fire. One of the things he's seen with this, the winds have blown over trees, and firefighters are having to navigate around down trees, down power lines. It's quite the fight, Carlos.
Absolutely. Here we are again at the intersection of Santa Barbara and Gavina, and things here have gotten worse. You can see the black smoke here. We just went down Santa Barbara Avenue, and we could see about 3 or 4 homes gone. The firefighters said there is a ruptured gas main, so they told us to get out of that area. And what's even worse, here, this home at the corner, it is on fire. You can see right through the inside of it is burning, and they're trying to do what they can to contain it, but obviously this house is gone. All the fire units are now converging here at this corner, and you can see the flames. They're outside, and also through the windows and the doors, you can see the flames inside this home. And again, that's the big concern. They were trying to save some of these homes on Via Santa Barbara, but they just could not do it. The wind is so strong, it was almost knocking us over. They're doing the best they can. They're trying to get around this area to try to contain it here, but you can see there's nothing they can do to protect these structures because this wind has been so strong. All the firefighters are converging here in this corner trying to see if they can contain it into these homes. But again, very strong winds right now. And it looks like every home on Via Santa Barbara, from the way we're looking at it from the right side, which I believe is the north side, it looks like every home there is going to be destroyed. And again, they've told us to get out of the area because there is a ruptured gas main.
All right, Carlos, thank you very much for that. So, got to try to get out of that area because there are other dangers in addition to the fire, possible ruptured gas main.
Okay.
And let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Christina Salvo. She has been tracking the Creek Fire all morning long. She joins us now from the ground on Cagle Canyon Road. That's just above Terra Vista Way. Christina.
Yeah, we're actually in the lower parts of Cagle Canyon Road now, but you can see the fire's made its way all the way down here, which is very disturbing to see. Really taking off right now, especially with those winds whipping through. It looks like the flames have reached up into a tree. Now the concern is as it burns up this little ridge side here, there is a house on the top of that ridge. One thing that's been remarkable to see throughout this morning is all the people coming together, the neighbors, the residents coming together to help each other out As we pulled up to this fire, it was just a few little spots at that point, maybe, I don't know, 40 minutes ago or so. And we saw a bunch of residents all trying to stamp it out, put it out together. One of the houses across the street had brought over a hose to try and help douse it. Unfortunately, once those winds came, they took control of the situation. Those residents had to get out there for their safety, and you can see the result of it. But really, people coming together to help each other evacuate, to help each other get their animals out further up the canyon road. There was a lot of horses that needed to be evacuated out. That was the one vehicle that was being allowed up when all those mandatory evacuations were in effect early this morning. You were being allowed to take up horse trailers to get them out. Fortunately, at this point, we have not heard of anybody injured in this. We hope that continues to be the case. Unfortunately, though, we have lost a number of houses already. No exact number, but I know it's probably getting close to 10 to 12 at least, just from witness accounts of what we've seen, what firefighters have told us they've seen as well. So quite a devastating situation. We hope that the winds will die down a little bit and this can burn itself out before it reaches that house at the top of the ridge. But that is the latest from Lakeview Terrace. Christina Salvo, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, Christina, thank you. We're just going to go to JT right now. He's above the Waystation. I'm trying to, is he able to hear us now? So JT, can you tell us about the evacuation of these exotic animals?
Yeah, it looks to be the evacuations are in progress or already have happened. You can see the fire surrounding the wildlife way station here on Little Tahunga. It's going to get obscured with smoke, but you can see the barns, you can see the covered barns. There appear to be some structures on fire. You can see some of the smaller structures that are on fire in here, right in that area next to those covered barn areas. I can't really tell what that is. I don't see any animals down in that area, Philip or Leslie, that are running around loose. So hopefully they got a lot of those animals out here. But the fire, mostly the biggest part of that fire is on the east side of that Little Tahunga Canyon, on the left side of your screen, moving from the north to the south. We're going to show you this area here, but we took a look earlier here at Wheatland. The fire making a run on the east flank, making a run from the north to the south, right near Wheatland, right in this area here. We'll pull up SkyMap 7 satellite imaging, and you can see all these areas here on the north of the 210, right around Wheatland. Right though, those areas there and those residents are in danger now from the fire burning down this ridge with the wind behind it. We'll come back out and show you our live shot. That is what it looks like. Can't really see the smoke, but with the help of SkyMap 7, we can really get in there. But this is the eastern flank of the fire. A lot of fire now working its way back to the 210 freeway. 210 freeway remains open both eastbound and westbound. In fact, we're going to push that way right now. We can get Zeus to fly as quick as we can back to the west where we were. Look at the fire on this ridge line. That's what they're dealing with. This flank has got a lot of fire on it as it pushes out on the left side, on the east side of this, and pushes down the ridge line. So making its way towards the 210, as far as we can tell, it has not jumped the 210 freeway as of yet, but we showed you those. There's Foothill Boulevard right there. We showed you those homes right near 210 at Wheatland that are in danger right now. Oliver Truck Trail is where the amount of the flames are really coming down on this ridge. In fact, we'll put the satellite back on to show you the homes right down in this area, right through Jacinto Avenue, Jimenez Street, all these areas near Esco Avenue, just on north of Foothill Boulevard, Renedo Place. All these homes here really feeling the brunt of this fire as it rips down this hillside, and hoping that these embers don't get caught down in these homes down in here, guys.
All right, JT, thank you very much. We know the most significant challenge in both of these fires are the winds, and they are gusting at high speeds. Leslie Lopez, we're going to bring her in now to get a clear picture of what's going on. Les.
Hey there, that's right. And I want to take you to the first fire that we reported earlier this morning, the Thomas fire that continued on, started overnight. And you're seeing some of that smoky conditions. That's from our live Mega Doppler 7000 HD. So it's picking up the smoke, and it is also driving right into the community. This is that High Point Drive community that Mark Hoda-Robles was at earlier this morning. Just to answer your question earlier, Philip, you asked how far away is that fire from the coastline, and if that wind continues in that northeasterly direction, it's about 4 miles to the coast. So, I mean, there is still plenty of houses. I want to just zoom back in. You can see how the terrain is also a big contributing factor as to how this is moving. Not only is it a wind-driven fire, but once you get into these canyons and these ridges, you are starting to see not only the wind, but also the terrain develop these fires and move them faster. Fires do move faster up a hillside, and then you get down into the valley. valley and you start to see a dense population, more dense population, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. As we are looking, though, to the next several days, we are going to continue to see these winds. The winds are going to continue through Thursday evening, so they're not letting up. Through Ventura, we're clocking in still about 36 to 38 mile-per-hour sustained winds. Some of those gusts, I'm just going to give you the newest update. The gusts for Ventura area, about 57 miles per hour nearby. Let's go take you over to areas of the creek fire. So this is Cagle Canyon. This is also a smoke plume being seen from our live Megadoppler 7000 HD. Looking down into that community where JT Alpal was just showing us, you're seeing that fire moving through that area. And of course, as we're noticing, pushing back out, some of those winds through the creek fire are still sustained winds around 43 miles per hour. We are looking at gusts here. I'm going to tell you the newest gust was about 68 miles per hour through that area. And Malibu just clocked in one of the stronger gusts I've seen all morning at 75 miles per hour. And just to give you an indication, hurricane force winds start at 74 miles per hour. So we're exceeding that through some areas along the coastline. You can really see when we're looking at our future forecast models where some of the strongest winds are through those canyons, through those passes out to Malibu and Ventura into the Inland Empire. We're going to see this all the way through your evening, and it doesn't really let up. Another big burst of winds comes around about 11 p.m. tonight, and then some more winds expected. Another big burst by the time we're heading into tomorrow night. We're also seeing some very gusty conditions, not only where we're seeing these fires, but also into the Inland Empire. 30-mile-per-hour winds out in Ontario, 18 in San Bernardino, 21 in Corona, and now winds continue to pick up for the area near Ventura, Oxnard. This nearby station, 25-mile-per-hour sustained winds. But we know by the fire, some of those winds are reaching closer to 40 miles per hour. As we're noticing, too, I just want to give you some of these future forecast models over into the Ventura County area. 38-mile-per-hour winds will be coming out of the northeast pretty regularly all the way through your evening. They go down about 25 miles per hour, but again, 11 p.m. is when we have that other uptick in some strong winds. Over into Santa Paula, also seeing some strong gusty winds. I can't say that the decline in winds is any good news because still staying into this 20+ marker is very, very strong. So we are concerned still that firefighters aren't going to get much in the way of getting in front of this blaze. We're looking at 41 for Sylmar and then 34-mile-per-hour winds by 4 p.m. and then 8 p.m. another 34 miles per hour. But trying to chase this fire, we've heard firefighters saying that's exactly what they're doing, just because getting ahead of something that's moving at such a rapid velocity is going to be very tough. And of course, the embers that get flown through the sky and then pushed over a mile or two away start new spot fires. So big concerns there. Another big concern for firefighters today will be that we have power outages, and power outages means loss of power to some of those pumps that also produce pressure for the hydrant. So if we don't have that pressure, then they're looking at closer sources like pools, etc., to try to fight these fires. So where are some big concerns when we're talking about winds of 50 miles per hour that brings down trees and power lines? Guys, I'll send it over to you, but this is not letting up till Thursday night. Santa Ana winds, typically around December and January, do produce some of the strongest bursts. Back over to you.
All right, Les, you do bring up some good points about those power outages. Here's Mark Cota-Robles yet again. He is on the ground, Foothill Road, above Foothill Road with more. Mark.
Yeah, Leslie, this is Villa Arroyo. We showed you this home earlier. It is now nearly a complete loss. The back end of it is just blown away by the flames. Ventura County Fire and LA County Fire, they were here earlier. They did what they could, but they had to leave to handle other situations because they knew this home was a loss. The one below it is a loss as well. Want to show you that we are just surrounded by fire. Up there on the ridge, another home that within the past 5 minutes is now going up in flames. I'm having to check my maps here to get all the streets straight, but I believe that might be a home on Skyview Terrace. Again, all of this is just off of Foothill Road, and where we're standing is Villa Arroyo, right at Nob Hill Lane. There are so many streets to name that have involved structures. We're not far from where we started the morning, over off of, again, Foothill Road and High Point Drive. That's where we started the morning, over near the Ventura Missionary Church. There were so many homes lost there as we were leaving the area that it already burned. Nothing but sticks and chimneys left there at the end of the driveways. And so we've given that figure that we've lost over 100 homes. That certainly is the case because we have seen dozens just in this isolated neighborhood that we've driven through. But as you're looking at this live picture, of that property, you can see even over the past minute or so how much more engulfed that home has become. And then another structure right here at the corner of Nob Hill Lane and Via Arroyo that remains intact, albeit some of the flames here on the side of the property. Firefighters were here not too long ago working on structure protection here as well. So that is the very latest, and perhaps if we step out just a bit here on Via Arroyo to show you how we really are surrounded by the fire. Further north here, thick black smoke as well, indication of another property that's going up. It's just hard to wrap your head around this, how much firefighters are having to deal with because of these winds that at times will take a break. Right now, nearly no wind, but then that huge gust that will come through, we keep mentioning with this Santa Ana wind event, 20, upwards of 30 miles per hour, that really fan the flames. And the big concern, as Leslie Lopez has been mentioning, the fact that these winds are in the forecast still for the next few days. And heartbreaking again to see that home that we're looking at, a beautiful property, looks like a new build that's going to be a complete loss, no doubt, by the time this thing is over.
Mark, turn your camera around on that little hillside right behind you, because we talk about the embers getting thrown all over the place, but right there behind you, that was almost out just moments ago, and we could almost watch it flare up while you stood right there. So it's not just the embers, it's these areas that are almost out that then they start to flare up again.
Yeah, and it's the wind that's doing that. You know, it doesn't take much, and you know, there's areas that will burn through, but it's still a hot spot, and just that heat will reignite. And then we have this situation, and we're only hoping it doesn't catch this property on fire because it's otherwise unscathed. And over here, excuse me, on Nob Hill Lane, there are several properties that are still standing as well. And that's the heartbreaking thing you have to imagine for the people who come back to this neighborhood to see what's left, to find their home gone and a neighbor's home just across the way that's still standing. Right here to the left, we showed you this earlier here on Via Arroyo. This home is completely gone. It's leveled. When we arrived probably over an hour ago now at this point, it was fully involved, now just kind of smoldering at this point. And then the initial home that we showed you is just up the hill here to the left, and that's fully involved as well. I mentioned overwhelming. It's tough to make sense of this. It's hard to get a grasp on the acreage that's burned because we're on the ground, but we know from the helicopter you get a pretty good sense of how much is burning with these now two devastating wildfires, one here in Ventura County, the other, of course, recovering in Los Angeles County.
And you mentioned that, Mark. Thank you very much. We have yet another brush fire that is burning. We want to go to JT Alpa live in Air 7 HD, Santa Clarita. JT, this is the third.
Leslie, we're showing it to you now. This is burning north of Newhall Ranch Road, east of the 5 freeway. We're several miles out using extreme vision to show you. You can see the fire burning north of this, what looks like a complex, a business complex. South of Wayside Jail, you can see the jail facility here, just north here, southern Castaic area, the sheriff's facility right there. It's burning from the right to the left. That's the northeast to the southwest, burning towards the 5 freeway and Newhall Ranch Road. Again, not a lot of homes in this area, but as it moves towards the freeway and with this wind, you can see a lot of businesses here on the east side of the west side of the 5 freeway, north of Newhall Ranch Road. So we're making our way as quick as we can in Air 7 HD to get a better look at the Santa Clarita fire, but Air Attack is trying to get some resources over here as well to try to jump on this fire before it grows out of control, but that looks like it may be the case right now. Again, a lot of homes not in this area near Edison Road. There's a lot of power lines, a lot of industrial in the area, but there are homes in industrial just south of this here off of Newhall Ranch Road. If you're familiar with the area, you can see all the area here. But look at that smoke, guys. It is just laying down. That gives you an idea of how fierce the winds are blowing. But look at all the homes on the west side of the 5 freeway. All these homes right now should be thinking about getting out, especially if it jumps the 5 freeway and it continues to go eastbound up Highway 126. It's heading that way right now. If it goes on the path that it's on right now, it'll head up and jump the freeway right at Highway 126. A lot of industrial, a lot of businesses in that area.
Okay, JT, just not news we want to hear. Already competing for resources, especially from the air, to fight these fires. As we look at this photo, this picture, that's Santa Clarita. Just as an update, the Creek Fire has new mandatory evacuations east of Little Tahunga to the golf course, Tahunga Wash, north of 210, also the Riverwood community. Let's go back to the Creek Fire. That is the new fire in Santa Clarita. Veronica Miracle has been covering the Creek Fire for us all morning. Again, the wind being the main factor here. Veronica.
Well, Philip, you can just see right now, I have to lean into the wind. At times, it's hard to walk out here. Firefighters on this home on Via Santiago were tearing down the garage just a minute ago. Again, they're putting water on the side of the house, on the sides of these homes where the fire has already erupted inside to make sure that it cools down. We're going to head just behind here to make sure we don't trip on anything, but just behind this fire truck is a home completely burned out. I'm going to show you just inside here. You can see the devastation. Look at that. Nothing left really. Firefighters have moved on because there's nothing to salvage here. As Mark Cota-Robles was saying earlier, just imagine this weeks before Christmas. And further down the road, I saw neighbors using their own water hoses to spray down any of the vegetation around their properties and their neighbors' properties. But the water is so depleted in this area that it's really hard to make a difference at this point. I want to show you just how strong the wind is as well. I don't know if you can see that baseball field back there. Well, there's a tree basically over the whole half of the baseball field. That wind really pushing us. And then further down, right below us here, this canyon, we've already seen the fire come through here and of course continue to travel, but the wind is shifting in so many different directions. It's moving dust, it's moving fire, it's moving debris. Really, the situation is just evolving minute by minute. Back to you guys in the studio.
Okay. Veronica, thank you very much. And of course, there are so many images that we've seen. This is the Creek Fire that we're looking at here. But there are images around Southern California between the Thomas Fire and the Creek Fire, and people have been sharing them with us all morning. These images are from the Thomas Fire. So many people all around Southern California, whether they're affected by the Thomas Fire or the Creek Fire, now the fire burning in Santa Clarita, where we've been getting these pictures with the hashtag ABC7 Eyewitness. So many individuals affected by this personally.
Yes, and look at the palm trees. We have seen those all morning long go up in flames, and that's what really sends these embers along with the winds, pushed by the wind, sending these embers to fly up to a mile or more in some cases, starting other spot fires along the way. Take a look at this picture. This was once a home, a pretty large home. It is now burned to the ground. Only the pillars you see standing there. These pictures help us further understand what this fire has done. And these fires since yesterday, 6 p.m. yesterday and 3:42 this morning, and now a third fire in the Southern California area.
If you have pictures or video and it's safe, you can share them with us by using the hashtag ABC7 Eyewitness, and hopefully it'll help us tell the story of so many people. Carlos Granda also trying to tell the story. The thing is, Carlos, when we see your images, that's when we begin to see the intensity of the wind out there. Your location has really been blowing.
Absolutely. Again, we're in Gavina and Via Santa Barbara, and here the situation is getting worse. They were hoping to save homes on the left side of Santa Barbara, but as you can see, the embers have gone over the street. Now that house over there is on fire. Pretty much every house on the right of Santa Barbara has burned down, and that's where firefighters have converged as they're trying to save something on this side. But again, every house from the corner all the way down appears to be destroyed, and now on the other side of the street, you can see the homes burning over there. There's some residents that are running by, some actually trying to save their homes, doing the best they can, maybe trying to pour some water on it. But again, this wind is so strong. We've had strong gusts here, feels like hurricane force winds that are moving the embers all over the place, moving the flames all over the place. Hold on, here's a fire truck going by, but as soon as it goes by, you can see the flames there on the roof of that house. Here's a fire truck from Pacoima. as it goes by. They're all converging in this area because they're very concerned they could lose almost every house in this small little neighborhood. And that's what they're very worried about. Well, the fire truck is just parked right in front of us because it is that is the corner of Gavina and Santa Barbara Avenue, and they're trying to stop the flames from moving from this side of the street. The wind is blowing in that direction, so it is keeping it away from us. But there you can see what it's doing. There you see that home over there. It is just burning out of control. Firefighters are in this street doing the best they can. They have hand crews on the ground trying to do what they can, but again, the wind, they just cannot keep up with this fire because the wind is so strong.
Carlos, we heard from Scott Reif in Air 7 earlier this morning about your location and Gavina. And for people who don't really understand the area, the Gavina thoroughfare there was one of the lines in the sand, so to speak, that they just did not want it crossing because it really starts to get into heavily populated areas. Can you give us a little bit of an idea geographically how this is going if people aren't familiar with your location?
Yeah. Well, you can see there in the distance all those homes in the hills, and they obviously do not want it to go in that direction. So that's what they're trying to do. You can see all the trucks moving through this area. It's a very busy thoroughfare. It's one of the main streets here, and that's why the trucks are going by. But you can see all those homes in the hills. That's where they make sure they do not want it to go and jump in that direction. You can see how close those homes are. They're all up in the hill, so that's what they're worried about. And there's a water dropping helicopter dropping retardant right here on these homes, doing the best they can to try to keep it from spreading. But again, it is moving so fast, it is very difficult for them to keep up with this.
Okay, Carlos, you can see that chopper there in the air and just the force of the winds pressing on that chopper as it was dropping water, or Faucheck, I believe it was water, on that area. But look at the wind. It's difficult to imagine being in that area with all those winds and then having a fire that you are trying to fight with wind gusts at one point, Leslie Lopez told us, topping 74 miles an hour.
Well, they were also, and then JT was also telling us about the difficulty of having flying a helicopter in those winds with the gusts that might suddenly stop, combined with the fact that you're fully loaded with water. You drop that, and now all of a sudden you're without your space, your weight there, and so that's an adjustment. So true heroes out there fighting these fires. This is the third fire that we're also talking about. This in Santa Clarita. This one, this is another element that they're really scared about because right now it's burning in an area that's not heavily populated. But we heard from both fire authorities fighting the Thomas Fire and the Creek Fire about their ground resources are going to be able to maintain the levels of firefighters. The air resources are what we begin to have competing efforts. They have to go to where they're most needed. And this is a difficult fight. But right now, sadly, it's kind of growing because we can't get on top of it because of the other two fires which are burning in neighborhoods.
Because of these awful conditions with the wind and the low humidity. And you know that Santa Clarita, as you can see with Sky Map 7, in the left side of your screen and then over to the right side, Santa Clarita is a highly populated area with several neighborhoods, homes close together, and they really do need to get on this, and I'm sure they are, but air assaults would help in this, and they are stretched thin at this point with 3 wildfires now burning out of control, no containment for any of these wildfires.
Okay, so just bear with me here you're looking at Santa Clarita, but I want to tell you about a freeway closure that is related to the Creek Fire. That's Sylmar, Lakeview Terrace, Little Tahunga there. The 210 freeway has been closed in both directions. That is not what you're looking at, but the 210 freeway has been closed in both directions between the 5 on the west and Sunland Boulevard on the east. This is according to LA Fire Department. The interchange of the 118 freeway at the 210, that's been closed. Motorists are being advised to take alternate routes to the south only because the Creek Fire is burning to the north. So that is another development that is going to be a major impact on people going throughout the day. The 210 freeway closed in both directions between the 5 on the west and Sunland Boulevard on the east.
And we want to restart you here on Eyewitness News at 10 a.m. Special live team coverage of these firestorms burning throughout Southern California. Now 3 fires. We have been following the Thomas fire since yesterday at 6 p.m. We then had the Creek fire beginning at 3:42 this morning, and the wind gusts were especially strong in that area and remain so. We've got crews spread out everywhere on all of these fires on the fire lines, and we now just several minutes ago have begun with the fire in Santa Clarita. You are looking at active flame moving up that hillside. It is in the brush right now, but we do have several highly populated, densely populated neighborhoods in that area. As far as the Thomas fire, 150 homes and structures have been destroyed. That number is expected to climb because that was yesterday's number and this morning's number. But they have got to get a look at survey the area and see how many more structures have been damaged and have burned down, because we have watched on this newscast since 4 a.m. when we came on, several homes destroyed, especially in Mark Cota-Robles' live shots. We also know that 27,000 people have been evacuated and 45,000 acres have been burned in that Thomas fire. That is the biggest fire at this point. Most of the resources are on that fire. And then we have the Creek fire, which 2,500 people have been evacuated. That has grown to from about 100 acres to 4,000 acres at this point. We just heard a news conference from authorities about an hour or so ago, and they were saying that this is an extremely difficult fire to fight. They are chasing the fire as they are doing in the Thomas fire as well. They are not in offensive modes in these fires. They are in defensive modes, just trying to protect structures at this point.
And it is important to note, homes have been lost in both locations, the Thomas fire and the Creek fire in Cagle Canyon. We really just don't know how many. Until right now, they're fighting the fire. We just have no idea how many structures lost. Leslie Lopez is joining us now. And the thing about this, Leslie, is it's not spotting in one direction. It's all over the place because of the winds.
And that's what we're concerned with. I mean, these embers go in every direction. And so when it does start to get into areas where we're talking about medium to heavy brush, that means more production of embers. And some of these places do have that terrain that are including that medium brush. So there are some concerns here. Now, I want to show you what's happening over into Santa Clarita. That's the newest and third fire that we're reporting here today. Right now, we have sustained winds of 36 to 39 miles per hour through that area. But the gusts being clocked, the most recent one, 59-mile-per-hour gusts rolled through that area moments ago. So again, Santa Clarita is dealing with some very strong gusty weather as well. And nearby through Sylmar, we are looking at that fire, and that fire has been producing some enormous winds. Velocities have reached early this morning 78 miles per hour. The latest through the Cagle Canyon area, that Creek fire, 68-mile-per-hour gust was reported. A stronger gust, though, if you're heading into the Boney Mountain, the Santa Monica Mountains in Ventura County. There was the last report of a 75-mile-per-hour gust through that area. I mean, we are talking about such powerful force with these wind velocities that, yes, the firefighters are on defensive mode, not offensive mode. We continue to show you what it looks like from our live Mega Doppler 7000 HD. That plume of smoke continues to extend even farther and farther out to the west. That'll be the case. So all these communities consider air quality to be at a very low minimum. I mean, we're just not looking at good air quality for today. And then if you're extending over to areas of Ventura, same goes. We have this big plume of smoke that is continuing on to the coastline. We're seeing smoke all the way down into areas of Malibu, even Oxnard seeing the smoke too, and then up towards the north into Carpinteria, you're looking at the smoke too. Also noticing that we do have 41-mile-per-hour winds through Fillmore, but more like 32 to 36 right now through Ventura. Again, gusts are very strong through that area as well. And I wish I had some good news, but unfortunately, these winds are going to continue to stay very strong as we're heading into this evening and then into tomorrow. So tomorrow we are looking at some winds that'll start to be producing a still gust about 40 miles per hour. We have a nice big burst. It looks like by the time we're heading into the evening of tomorrow, so that's unfortunate. And then another big burst tonight as well. We are also noticing wind speeds not only bad in these areas that we're looking at into areas of Santa Clarita, Sylmar, Ventura, but also into the inland Inland Empire, although the Inland Empire winds look like they're calming down just a little bit. Moments ago, they were into the 30s, now into the 20s. It looks like it is picking up, though, for areas of Ventura, unfortunately, so those winds are only getting stronger. And when you hear Carlos Grande say it feels like hurricane force winds, you know, he's right. Some of those gusts are around 75 to 78 we've seen, and hurricane force, the entry level to hurricane winds, 75 miles per hour. So we are exceeding that in some places. Here's what it looks like, though. I want to show you the rest of today for Ventura. Unfortunately, no good news again. We're seeing those winds staying very strong through your evening, and then also into areas of Santa Paula remaining strong, getting a little less velocity, though, for 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., but that's not really good news. 22 mile per hour sustained winds are still very strong. And then if you are going to be traveling out towards areas of, it looks like Sylmar, 41 right now, that'll decline down to 34. Still very gusty, very strong winds. And of course, this is the type of weather that firefighters, you know, are having such a difficult time with. I will say one of the things that we've been mentioning earlier this morning, that when you have a 40 mile per hour wind for firefighters trying to spray a fire, that water goes sideways. So, I mean, they're having a hard time even hitting some of these flames just because of how strong the winds are. That's at 40 miles per hour. Some of the winds that we're seeing here are 60 plus. Guys, over to you.
All right, Les, definitely very challenging. We're going to turn our attention now to the biggest fire in this trio, the Thomas Fire, Scott Rifen Air 7 HD. And Scott, you've got an update for us. What can you tell us?
Devastating. You know, we're seeing way too much of this. This home started on fire maybe 15, 20 minutes ago and just erupted. On the bottom of your screen, you can barely see a home starting on fire. What's interesting about that, there's a resident. I know we're a long ways out, but some of the people did not evacuate, and we don't see a lot of structure protection. You know, resources are spread thin, and we want to come out of this shot. You know, Tracy Morgan is the camera person, and she looked at it, and she, boy, said, it's just sickening. And it really is when you start to look at how many of these homes have just been burnt right down to the frame. I mean, there are dozens and dozens and dozens. We haven't counted them, so the 150 number we don't know about, but this is just one area. This is all west of Foothill. It's up along La Cumbre, High Point Drive, and Briarcliff. I also want to give you a little bit of a look as we open up and we come to the south. Now, the 101 freeway is open. We're tilting to the south now, looking towards the shoreline and towards downtown Ventura. Right now, the 101 freeway is open, and once you get down to the hill line, I think they'll be able to save that area. But I want to tilt up and show you how big this fire is and how much heat there is from it. And up and over the hill, the 101 freeway could be affected up over La Conchita and Seacliff, because those homes are extremely difficult to protect. So we'll come back down to the actual fire line and just show you once again that one spot, the devastation that we're seeing. And it's just such a large fire. It's 45,000 acres, a 14-mile line out of Santa Paula, basically all the way down to the 101. It becomes nearly impossible to stop this fire from destroying these homes, and we're seeing when a home like this catches on fire, those hot embers in a lot of cases catch another one on fire. So the 126 remains open. Sadly, we're seeing much too much of this home still on fire, catching fire and being destroyed. We are seeing some residents even trying to stay out in front of this and see if they can stop it, and not enough structure protection. So from here, it's just complete devastation. It's just so sad, but that's a large home there, fully engulfed, and when one takes off like that, lots of times we see another one next to it get going because of the high winds and the hot embers that you get from what's burning inside the house.
Okay, Scott, we're going to wrap this up. We'll come back to you in a moment. It's horrible to see another.
Be prepared, because this could
We want to
be
get another
a
update from LAFD. That looks like Mayor Eric Garcetti, who is giving us a briefing on the Creek Fire.
We have a lot of large animals that are being evacuated, horses and others. Those are going to Pierce College and the Los Angeles Equestrian Center. And we have evacuation centers that are set up at Sylmar Rec Center and at Sunland Senior Center as well. There's also 4, as I mentioned, both small and large animal evacuation centers. You can find a complete list of the evacuation areas if you go to lafd.org. And if people are still in areas and you need and you know somebody who needs someplace to go, please know you'll be welcomed at those evacuation centers with open arms. And you'll hear more about folks that want to give donations to help out any of the victims of this fire as well. Thank you again to our firefighters who continue to do amazing work. We know that folks who are battling the Thomas Fire, with over 31,000 acres burned, 27,000 people who've been forced to evacuate, and we do have a strike team from LAFD on site there. It's a very difficult moment, but we will get through this. We proved this just over a month ago. We are a resilient city, we are a strong city, we are a capable city. And I want to thank the Unified Command and turn it over to the first of two fire chiefs, Chief Osby from LA County Fire, to update. When everybody's done, I'll also say words in Spanish for our Spanish media as well. Chief Osby.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Darrell Osby, Fire Chief of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. And just want to reiterate some of the things that the Mayor just said. Also, in addition to that, I spent the night, in addition with my counterpart from LA City, assisting the firefighters of firefight in Ventura County. And from our department, we have 4 strike teams there and a dozer team assisting Ventura. So we spent the night assisting the fire in Ventura. We got the call from LA County Fire this morning at 3:42 this morning in Little Tujunga. We immediately dispatched a first alarm assignment. Upon arrival, we immediately got assistance from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to provide immediate evacuation for the citizens at risk. I just want to re-emphasize right now, we are facing critical fire behavior in ways that people may not have experienced in the past. This is the 5th year of an ongoing drought. I know that we had some rain this year, but just enough grass crop to have flashy fuels. We have erratic wind behavior. From our department alone right now, on this incident of the Creek Fire, we have over 60 fire engines, over 400 personnel, helicopters flying to assist. To reemphasize what the mayor just said, to our citizens, it is extremely critical that when you're asked to evacuate, evacuate early. We've had experience in other fires throughout this region that when we've had fatalities, it's because people did not heed the early warning evacuations. As mentioned earlier, we're up to 4,000 acres. We're in unified command. As we were preparing for this press conference, we had a second start in Los Angeles County Fire Department's jurisdiction. It is in Rye Canyon, which is in Santa Clarita. We got the call at 9:32. Currently, it's a second alarm assignment. It's over 20 acres right now. We've diverted 2 helicopters from this incident to assist over there at the Rye fire in Santa Clarita. I mentioned these helicopters right now because of the erratic winds. We're unable to fly fixed-wing aircraft right now because it's unsafe for fixed-wing aircraft. In conclusion, I've also briefed the Board of Supervisors, 3 of the supervisors in particular, but as it relates to this fire and the fire in Santa Clarita, it's the Honorable Supervisor Barger who's been briefed. She sends her regards for the safety and welfare of our citizens and our firefighters, that we're able to combat this fire safely and get home safely. As I mentioned safety, right now we have no reports of any civilian fatalities or injuries. I know that on my way over here we heard of civilians or victims potentially being trapped. We have no confirmation of that. We are aware that we've lost structures. However, we're in an extreme firefight right now trying to save lives and protect property, so we do not have a count right now on the number of structures. With that being stated, I'm going to turn this over to my esteemed partner from the Los Angeles City Fire Department, Chief Ralph Terrazas.
Thank you, Chief. We have been here before. Labor Day weekend, we had the La Tuna fire. We're using much of the same footprint that we did for that fire here today in terms of the unified command. We have excellent partners, everybody's doing their part, and things are working well. The messages that I want to reiterate are the evacuation message: to be ready, to be set, and to go when we tell you to go. We did have a dozer rollover earlier this morning with an LAFD firefighter. He is in stable condition, has been transported to a local trauma center. We do have red flags in effect throughout the, red flag no parking program is in effect throughout the city in the brush fire areas. Although the focal point is here right now, we are at risk throughout the city. We want all people to be aware and alert. If you see any source of smoke or flame, immediately dial 911 and let us know about it. This is the start of a multiple day weather event, so we're not through this yet. That's all I have. Now I'd like to turn it over to LAPD Chief Beck.
After Chief Beck, we'll have some information about the school closures from Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez as well. Chief Beck.
Good morning. Today we have the 210 freeway closed in both directions from Sunland to the 118 interchange. This is part of multiple closures that exist because of this fire. We ask the public, especially those that do not live in these neighborhoods, to please stay away. Do not become part of the problem. Additionally, if police officers and firefighters ask you to leave your home, please do. As the fire chiefs have said, as the mayor has talked about, this is going to be a multi-day event. This will not be the only fire. We are going to be hard-pressed to meet all the resource needs throughout the city and the county of Los Angeles due to this weather event. And if you stay in your homes, you cause our resources to be diverted to take care of you, and you become part of the problem. So please do all you can to secure your goods, be ready, set, and go. With that, I'm going to bring up our great councilwoman from this region who has been not only part of this effort, but many previous efforts in the same venue.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everyone. Just to update for a number of the residents, and we experienced this during the recent La Tuna fire, we have a many members of the equestrian community that have evacuations currently mandated. The Hanson Dam Equestrian Center does currently have 40 remaining slots available to accommodate your large animal and equine. LA Equestrian Center is at capacity, so we encourage you to please attend to your equine and directing them to Pierce College is where we have the additional accommodations. Also, we want to thank everybody that was so helpful in the La Tuna fire. They were bringing in a number of donations because we want to make sure that people stay clear of the roads and from making any additional impacts to our fire stations, to please direct any donations of food or beverages to my Pacoima City Hall office, which will serve as a post for those donations at 13520 Van Nuys Boulevard in Pacoima, and we can redistribute as necessary. We are not seeking any contributions at this time, but we want to make sure that people stay off the roads unnecessarily, and especially not to attend to any of our local fire stations, because we need all our fire personnel attending to that. We have a number of school closures as well in Sylmar and in Lakeview Terrace. They want to make sure that everyone please refer to the LA Unified website at lausd.net for more up-to-date information. Several of our schools in Sylmar were redirected to San Fernando High School, but those changes are ongoing, so we encourage everybody to stay apprised of some of those developments as they continue with LA Unified schools. Thank you very much.
I want to thank State Senator Bob Hertzberg, who is here on site. We appreciate him. He was here on Labor Day as well, and representatives from our Congress members, Cardenas and Schiff, who are with us as well, and of course the supervisors who are in a County Board of Supervisors meeting as we speak. Next, I'd like to ask Rachel Smith from the U.S. Forest Service to come forward to give an update as well, or in the state, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. My name is Rachel Smith. I'm the Deputy Forest Supervisor of the Angeles National Forest. This morning we have more than 200 individuals working in support of fire response across the Angeles National Forest, and a total of 3,800 acres that we're currently estimating the fire size at. We continue to work actively with our partners from the county and the city, and look forward to work together in the days ahead. Thank you.
And finally, we'll get an update from the Sheriff's Department, Captain Blasnek, if you'd like to come forward. Thanks, sir.
Good morning. I'm Captain Chris Blasnik from the Crescenta Valley Sheriff's Station. We do have a large portion of this incident in our Kegel upper and lower canyons. We received the call early this morning, like Chief Osby said. We immediately initiated resources for Crescenta Valley Station, Altadena Station, and Temple Station. We also activated our Montrose Search and Rescue Team as well as the Altadena Search and Rescue Team. Everybody was able to get up to the canyon in order to assist with evacuations, getting people out of there safely. I also want to emphasize that Cagle Canyon, Lopez Canyon, and those areas affected in the unincorporated areas are locked down. Please stay away. The roads are closed. We have enough deputy personnel here. We will be asking personnel from throughout Los Angeles County to come up here today to assist with road closures and with any assistance that any of the residents still need from us. Right now, we have plenty of people up here. So again, I just want to emphasize that please stay away from the Cagle Canyon upper, lower, and Lopez Canyon areas. Thank you very much.
And we are also evacuating Sylmar High School now. Just a note to all Angelinos, especially those in the San Fernando Valley on the west side of Los Angeles, this is pretty extreme air condition quality as we see. Please, for those who are sensitive to asthma, to other things, stay inside as much as you can, filter the air if you have that ability inside your homes. This is way worse than a stage 3 smog alert for those of you who remember those from a couple decades ago. This is hazardous to many people's health. This should not be a day for exercising outdoors. As we are fighting this fire, make sure that you stay healthy as well. We'll take some questions, but brevemente en español yo quiero decir también gracias a todos por estar aquí con nosotros. Hoy a las 4 de la madrugada surgió un incendio de maleza cerca de la calle de Little Tujunga Canyon. Según la más última estimación, este incendio se ha extendido sobre más de 4,000 acres. Quisiera agradecer a los valientes hombres y mujeres trabajando duro para proteger nuestros hogares y nuestras vidas también. Ahora hay casi 700 bomberos. Gracias a todos por estar aquí, unificados de la ciudad, el condado y del estado también en el sitio. Este incendio se está moviendo rápidamente, alimentado por los vientos Santa Ana. Actualmente hay órdenes para evacuar los residentes de más de 2,500 hogares y el territorio es norte de Boulevard de Foothill entre Glen Oaks y la frontera del condado en el oeste. Por favor, es importante escuchar a las autoridades en estas evacuaciones. Se puede ver una lista completa de zonas de evacuación en la página web LAFD o LAFD.org. Los centros de evacuación están localizados en los sitios siguientes: Centro de Recreación en Sylmar y Centro para Mayores en Sunland. Además, hay 4 centros para animales grandes y pequeños en Pierce College y el centro, there's no space anymore, equestrian. So, en Hanson Dam también. Este es un momento difícil, pero tenemos los bomberos, los oficiales, los expertos. Son una ciudad muy fuerte, una ciudad que pueden actuar en maneras muy seguras por todos los residentes de Los Ángeles gracias a sus acciones. With that, we'll take questions. Thank you.
Can we get the sheriff's captain quickly here to talk about Cagle Canyon area? We got an update, Captain, just a little while ago that as many as 10 to 15 homes have been damaged or burned in the Cagle Canyon upper area. I had a listener ask, do we have any status on Gold Spirit Farm up in Cagle Canyon? They were wondering if their workers got out.
Actually, I think this is a better question for the fire department to determine what houses have been, if there's structures that have been lost and what has been lost. Right now, the Sheriff's Department concern is with the resident safety, helping to evacuate, knocking on doors, ensuring people got out of their houses, ensuring that people don't go back into their houses, and keeping the area locked down, the roads closed. So I can refer that back to the fire department. Might be a little bit better for them to answer that part of the question.
Is there someone who can answer that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Darrell Osby from the fire department. What's your question again?
Cagle Canyon area, we were hearing as many as 10 to 15 homes have been damaged or burned, and I had a listener who was specifically asking about a
Okay, everybody, that's going to conclude my rebroadcast here of ABC 7 coverage for the fires here in Southern California near Los Angeles and Ventura counties. If you want, you can go over to abc7.com, continue watching their live broadcasts. Thanks. Stay safe, everybody. Goodbye.